Welcome to another episode of the Silman Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Battisto. We got the boys on. We're here to do a state recap. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Spotify. If you guys can follow our socials on Instagram, X, Twitter. I still call it Twitter. It's X. Follow that. We're on Instagram. It would really help us out if you guys could leave a comment, maybe talking about something that you liked about the show, something that you think we could do differently or help the show. Any guests that you think should be on the show. If you guys leave a comment on our socials or on our YouTube channel, that would be fantastic. Anyways, appreciate your support. Hope you guys enjoy the episode.
Mr. Navarro, I have a question.
Sure.
About the little CIF poster behind you and how it was acquired.
See, if you were on time, we already made that comment.
Oh,
but, no. For the podium this year, K&D actually kind of was able to get a podium up to have two podiums, and we didn't have these slide into a little bit of a rail on the front of the podium, so we needed it for the, I don't know, kind of like the template. So me and another guy took it for the template, and when we build it, we'll use it for the rails. But I had it in my classroom, and then finally I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take it for the podcast.
Yeah.
So it looks good in the background. Yeah, for sure.
I will say the double podium, I thought that was super smooth. I think it was a good idea.
Way better.
I remember the year before the podium and the pictures was just dragging, and it was over a lot quicker this year. I mean, it sucks because it's still such a long event, our finals for the state tournament. I don't think Brady and I got out of there till 10 o'clock.
It was a 3-hour final. From the time Oren and I actually flipped the mics on to the time we flipped the mics off, it was 3 hours.
That's insane.
I mean, it wouldn't help just because like the boys ran that amount of time regardless, but I think they should hold matches. I think it's like
I thought they usually did hold matches. I feel like this is the first time I noticed they did not hold the matches.
Yeah, I don't know when they combined boys and girls. I'm trying to think back. I'm not sure if they've held matches or not, but I mean the boys at 190, we're at 190 and the girls are done. I've seen complaints on Facebook and stuff that they were saying how it wasn't organized and stuff. It's like, I mean, just start the matches at the same time. Why not? Same amount of weights, 14 weights, just start them all at the same time. But because then at least like people are watching the girls and the boys. And I mean, I like eyes on one mat anyways, but if they want to run at the same time, run at the same time.
It would be a long finals to do 28 matches, girls first, and then boys are going girl, boy, one mat. That would be.
Oh no. Yeah, no, not one mat. I just mean on the two mats, but people were talking about maybe doing girls Friday night and then boys Saturday night. But I mean, I think the whole thing is just naturally the boys have been around longer. The boys are going to have a bigger crowd. It's nice to kind of combine the crowds at least for the girls, but that's one thing. I don't know how they would change that or how they would adjust. It'd be cool to go back to a stage, but
I think you could, and not that anyone that could change this is ever going to listen to this or hear our recommendations, but my opinion is the first day, I like the fact that everyone makes second day. It's cool. You make this 4-hour trip for us or for some people longer to come to Bakersfield, and you automatically are going to get 2 weigh-ins, but you could get a lot more wrestling done in that first day, in my opinion. And if you did that, it would definitely quicken things up for Saturday, which I feel like, or I'm sorry, for Friday, which I feel like Friday is the longest day of wrestling. It is so many rounds for boys and girls. You have all the consolation rounds, and then you have the quarterfinals, which is it. But it's all those consolation rounds that just takes forever. And I think if we moved some of those over to Thursday, we could potentially get the girls tournament done by Friday night, which would be cool. You'd run championship quarterfinals, boys and girls, and then boys, and then you would do finals girls, which would potentially work. I don't know the math on the timing of it all, but I think it could work.
You could run those pigtail consolation matches that first day, but I see people talking about it being a money issue. It's not a money issue. I absolutely think you're right, Sean, where it's, hey, everybody kind of comes back that second day. But also, I think the travel aspect of it as well. You got guys and girls cutting weight and making 3 weigh-ins So that first Thursday morning making weight, and we were out of there at a decent time. So I think that's why they don't run that. That's way above my pay grade to make those decisions. But I think that they could run those consolation pigtail that later on that night on Thursday. But I'm a firm believer that, again, I have no insight, but I think that they want that time to have those kids be able to, some of those kids only wrestle twice or one time, depending on what it is.
Mhm.
And if you're only wrestling one time, now you got a little bit of time at night to cut that weight.
Yeah. I get that. Be interesting to see what happens though. But overall, I thought it was obviously still, for how many people are competing, how many people are there, how many schools are represented. It's still, you gotta, all things considered, I do think it's a smooth event. I do think, the people who are doing it with production and everything else do a great job. I thought you, Brian, and Oren in the finals were freaking awesome. And even the semis and even some quarterfinal matches. Yeah, you guys, I even saw Robbie Smith getting on the mic for some quarterfinal matches. That's pretty awesome. But is that something you guys decided, or was that planned?
Yeah, K&D ultimately has that say so, and they contracted obviously through NFHS, and they were able to let us do the quarters, semis, and finals. And on the quarterfinals, we had a Southern California guy, Scott Shum. He coached at Canyon Springs for a while, and then at Citrus Hill. He was able to be on a quarter mat for the girls. And then myself, I had a mat, and yeah, Robbie Smith. He's kind of doing a lot for CYC and, taking over for Halverson with Guy. But yeah, he was on the mat on the quarters. And then for the semis, Oren came in, and Oren and I did the semis. And then, oh gosh, Ramos and it was Ramos and Robbie on the girls semis.
Cool.
So, and then they did the girls finals, and then Oren and I did the guys finals.
I got a list that I started like last week listening to matches of it's titled Top Oren Quotes during the tournament. One of them was in the semis where he said, I don't remember whose match it was, but there was some controversial scoring points going back and forth, and Oren says, I don't know what I'm thinking, I'm just crazy. Perfect.
Was that Zink and Townsend?
It might have been,
I think it was.
It might have been that one, or
I have no clue.
it might have been Branson John, and who's that Pittman kid? Ontiveros?
Yeah.
He was that one. I have to go back and look. And then in the finals, Oren says, how is Merrill a sophomore? I go to the gym every day just to look like that, and I don't.
Orenisms, there it is, dude.
Orenisms. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I just remember what I vividly remember saying is during one of the semis, it was a Poway kid, and I think it was Laird's match in Estrada, and one of the Poway dads, and I don't think it was Laird's dad, but
You were chirping with him, yeah.
Yeah, he was yelling, stalling. And like, first of all, like Estrada's shooting a bunch. Like he shot like 4 or 5 times in overtime alone. And like he already had a stalling call against him. And it's overtime. And like, yeah, Laird like pushed him out of bounds once and he goes stalling. And I took the mic off and I'm like, dude, they're not gonna call that. Like, they're not gonna decide a match.
Well, and he just took like 3 shots and then he got pushed out of bounds. It's like he's not stalling. He just got out of position for a second after he was on his leg for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I mean,
heard that.
What a horrible call that would be. But he was like, I know. He's like very understanding. I was like, dude, like, don't ask for that. Like, that's not.
He knows exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was right behind me and Carl.
You were talking about it, Brian. You told me that.
I looked back at him and I was trying to make eye contact with him, and I realized he's in the stance. I can't say anything.
Yeah.
If the result went the way that would have favored us, I would have looked back at him and just stared at him and then walked away. But honestly, I mean, he's yelling right behind us in our corner in the stands.
Now, okay, with that being said, do we think, just throwing things out there, talking about the state tournament, do we think that the workers at the arena should be checking tickets for all those, before people walk down the aisle, to go down to those seats right there. Because I guarantee you those Poway, whoever those parents were, didn't have those seats. They just ran down there because they knew he's assigned a mat 4, and they ran. And I did it too. Me and Brady had a kid in the round of 12. We knew what mat it was. We ran right down to the railing, and we were freaking basically mat side. But
it's been that way for 20 years, and I think it's great. I actually mentioned it on the semis match on the broadcast. Anybody who has those seats down in that lower bowl, they're very quick to be able to, hey, listen, sit here, root on your kid. It sucks when they're sitting right behind the opposing coach. Totally agree. But that's one of those things there at Mechanics Bank Arena that is super cool, in my opinion. But you're absolutely right. Like, hey, could you go to the other side? Like, can you move down just a little bit so you're not in our ear?
The nature of the beast. Sometimes you can't.
Yeah, well, it happened actually. Like I was watching, it was Blood Round, and it was one of the kids that I used to coach, the dark horse that I said at 144, Marcus Caro. He was taking on Priest from Bakersfield, and Caro's dad. And listen, that was a tough match. Caro didn't do enough to win that. Priest did a great job, got in on a lot of shots. Carl's dad was sitting right behind Adam Fierro, coaching Bakersfield, yelling, stalling, stalling. And then the match was over. Carl lost, and he's yelling, that's stalling. And he's yelling at Adam, basically. And Adam just looks at him and goes like, stalling what? Or like said something funny like that and kept it appropriate, but kind of yelled back at him. And it's like, it's kind of funny, but it's also like, I mean, it's hard for the coach. And I don't shame the coaches who kind of get into it and yell back at parents, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we're working our butt off. We're actually doing this. And yeah, you're coming down, you're saying your thing, but I think it adds to the flavor as long as we keep like the like actual fighting away from it. And
yeah, no one should be getting
crazy.
physical, but
Don't fight the
it's a big
parents.
tournament.
If you're a coach, don't jump the railing. Don't sucker punch a parent.
Don't also fight kids either. That's not cool.
It's actually one of the things that you see on the opposite side of it. And I mean, like the production side, we've got some media passes that we're able to kind of peruse the floor, and every security guard, every single one for Mechanics Bank has a pair of scissors. And if you're caught, you think I'm kidding, and I'm not. If you're caught jumping the railing as a fan, they will just come up and they will snip your band, they will snip your coach's band, and they'll just throw you completely out. So I think that the arena does a good job kind of policing that. But Oren, I think you're right about how it's kind of cool where the coaches just kind of chirp in a friendly banter of just like, we're stalling? Wait a minute, you're stalling. There you go. Here's your penalty point.
Well, let's get into it. Does anyone when it comes down to the team, the team race, Poway kind of ran away with it. Is anyone surprised? Is anyone kind of how it expected to go for them?
I mean, I think it was expected, and I think that they did what they were supposed to do. They did like their entire year was leading up to this. They've had such a dominant year, one of the most dominant years I've seen in their history. But I do I mean, Buchanan was going into the quarters getting, how many guys they get in the quarters? 12?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was at that point, I was kind of worried. I was like, whoa, because I mean, I was rooting for Poway. And I was like, being a San Diego boy, and I'm like, oh man, like, is Buchanan just gonna keep it rolling? Are they gonna keep doing it? And then after that quarterfinal round, Poway gets 10 in the semis. I was like, oh my, like they're treating this like a local tournament. I was like, that's crazy to do at the state tournament. So they stepped it up.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you looked at those quarterfinal matches, there was a post on California Wrestler or Twitter, it was something where it's like, how is this not being talked about? Like it's still competitive. And I think there was maybe like a 13-point gap between Buchanan and Poway at the time. And I was like, yeah, I understand there's a lot of Buchanan guys in the quarters, but if you look at the matchups, there wasn't really a lot of matchups where they were favored. And I'm like, this is where they're going to have to really step up if they want to contend for a team title. They're going to have to win those quarterfinal matchups, and most of them didn't go their way, and most of them went Poway's way.
And that's the crazy stat. And the crazy stat, I think, is here's where the tournament switches. Buchanan had 2 wrestlers that were the higher seed that lost in the quarters. They had Woodward at 106. He lost, and Contino lost in the quarters. And both those guys were the higher seed. And if they make that to the semis, that's an additional 10 points minimum. It's anywhere from 10 to, in reality, you're looking from like 5 to 7 on the placing points individual. So 2 of them, that's 10 to 14 points that could have been plus for Buchanan. But on the flip side, Poway just absolutely, they have 3 kids that are a lower seed. They had Navita, they had Carini, and they had Farha all place and ultimately win that quarterfinal matchup where they were not the number one, or they were the lower seed. You know, now Farha's the 5 and he beats the 13, but again, he's the 5. He's not supposed to make it. Karini's the 6. He beats the 3 seed. Navita 5. He beats the 4 seed. So if you're looking at that, that is a huge, massive 25-point swing. If you add 10, anywhere from 10 to 14 points to Buchanan and take away those 15 to 20 points for, for Poway, now you're in a 5 or a 7-point difference going into the semis, and it's a whole different round. Poway crushes that quarterfinal to push them into the semis, and Buchanan had 2 higher seeds lose, and that's your tournament right there. And Poway lived up to it. Obviously, with Navita going all the way to the finals and winning in the semis with being a lower seed, and then ultimately just becoming champion of champions, winning it. But I think that that round right there just absolutely put Poway in the driver's seat, and that train was just on the tracks and no one was stopping them.
Yeah. You could see the momentum shift too amongst the coaches, in terms of their attitude. I think day one, it's very tight. It's intense. Day 2 at the start, very intense with a couple cons rounds, and then you get the quarters. And then honestly, day 3 started and their level was up here. And they knew it was almost all the way locked up, and they rode that train. I mean, that was exactly what they did. You get on that momentum and you start riding, and good things happen, and they just keep happening. So that was for sure. I wanted to touch on the Navita Champion of Champions. There was some controversy on the Cal Forum about it, saying, how did it not go to, I think it was Merrill that they wanted it to go to, or there were some complaints, and people don't realize that that's voted by the 14 champions. And
that was my comment. And I don't rarely ever post, but when I saw that, I was like, okay, number one, you have to inform these people. But number two, he had an amazing tournament. Take everything out with his personal life going on that nobody knew about. But for him to come in, that is a champion of champions vote on that. And that is 14 guys voting on that particular award. And they all voted for him. Take nothing away from Merrill being undefeated and winning, his 2 state titles. Obviously didn't have one last year, but the champions voted. Enough said. Into controversy, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, before we dive into weights, do we want to talk about juice, or we can talk about it as we go in the weights? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Spill that.
There's
juice,
plenty
John.
of juice. There's
Spill that
plenty of juice.
There's a lot of juice, you guys. There's a lot of juice.
Good little juice pour.
Are we talking liquid or vapor juice?
Well, have a little bit.
Get it started. Get it started.
Oh,
We might have, dude. You must have thought about that one.
I was like, all right, before I go on, I gotta write this stuff down.
It's the dad jokes, old man.
You know what? Let's I don't know. We could go by weight and drop juice.
I mean, the weight and juice kind of coincide at 106. You might as well just run it.
True. So let's start there. It's 106 is the Northview stuff, right?
yep.
Yeah.
What, Brian? What do you know about that?
So allegedly, there was something that happened at weigh-ins where there was a kid wearing a Northview singlet that was in line to weigh in. And there were some 106 pounders from Northview section, the southern section, that said, that's not Tolentino. And from what I know, because I have a buddy within the coaching staff, something was happening with Tolentino. He was injured and was planning on not weighing in. And this person, again, had a Tolentino, or had a Northview singlet, was in line to weigh in. And people were like, hey, that's not Tolentino. And, I think there were some young guys at 106 and they didn't want to say anything. And allegedly, there was a Frontier kid who was a senior that heard that and said, "Hey, are you Tolentino?" And the guy like looked at him and said, "No," and ran off. And our kid went to the people that were weighing him in. Is like, "Hey, I don't know what happened, but that kid was going to weigh in for Tolentino. Just so you guys know, and he's not Tolentino." So I don't. Again, it sound because we talked to the I guess the person that was doing the weigh-ins for that, and they heard about that as well. I don't know anything beyond that, and it's something that knowing, talking to people that know the like Bob Bellamy and the coaching staff that's at Northview, like Bob Bellamy is a pretty good dude, and I would hope it has nothing to do with him. It might just have been kid just snuck down there or something, but didn't lead to anything as far as I know in terms of investigations. I don't know what you guys have heard with that.
I think it's wild.
Yeah.
I
I
think it's
haven't heard
crazy.
anything investigation wise. I mean, I know he was the 11 seed. There's not an 11 seed in the bracket, so clearly he didn't weigh in or anything happened from there. But the story I heard was fairly similar to what Brian said, and I don't know how CIF investigations work, but from an investigator background in my career, like this would be definitely something I would imagine would get looked into. It's some interviews, and that would involve coaches and kids involved as well. But I don't know how CIF runs their show, and I don't know how that works or if that ball is even rolling. It'd be interesting to find out. But I don't know.
I remember a few years back, I don't know, it might be a situation where CIF's just going to have to fit the bill. It's tough, but a few years back, every competitor got their photo ID taken, and they had their little lanyards. So if that's a situation, I've known Bobby for a long time. I don't ever think that he would ever do something like that knowingly. But it could have been in a situation where the kids just take it upon themselves. Again, all of that is speculation, but looking forward, with that being a question or maybe a controversy or even a chance of that being true, I don't know, what are the next steps to look at any of these tournaments where these kids are weighing in and it's not them and then coming out. I think at the state tournament, everybody knows everybody in the bracket. So that was a big help. But I think we've all been to some of these local tournaments where everybody weighs in at the scale and you're reading off the alpha roster, and next thing you know, I don't know, it's a can of worms I don't even want to open, but looks like somebody else opened it for us.
I mean, for coaches, go ahead, Brady.
I was gonna say, I think this happened like last summer, maybe at like World Team Trials or something for U15s or 17s with the Rainey twins. If you guys know who they are.
Yeah.
From Kentucky?
From Kentucky,
Yeah.
I know they got caught. I know it was like a thing, but I don't know what happened. I think they're both still wrestling currently. But one twin got caught weighing in for the other one, and yeah, it was a big old thing on Twitter and whatnot. But it was at some big
That's
tournament.
just wrong. That's just, I mean, morals and ethics and everything else inside. Like that's just, you can't do that. That destroys the sport. And
You guys
that's,
want to hear? You guys want to hear some related juice to this story? One of our wrestlers had the old switcheroo pulled on him by two wrestlers who are brothers, who are very high level and look very alike and are similar in weight. One weighed in and the other wrestler showed up and wrestled him, the bigger wrestler,
Allegedly.
was this at an off-season tournament?
It was an
This was
off-season
like-
tournament.
When they were younger.
I mean, kids are kids and they're going to do what they're going to do to try to get things through. I just hope that no matter who the coach is, if that gets word, that's where you sit your team down and you say it's just unacceptable. And
yeah.
they gotta do it at the team rate.
I don't think it's fair to punish a coach who doesn't know that that's happening, right?
100%.
If you're doing the investigation, if I was doing the investigation for CIF, I'm interviewing all those people involved separately, collecting statements. And then I find out that the coach had absolutely no involvement. The kids all orchestrated this themselves. Like, I don't think it's fair to hold that coach accountable. Now, on the contrary, if he did, and the kids all say, yeah, coach so-and-so told me to do X, Y, and Z, and so I did X, Y, and Z, then you're probably gonna, that coach is probably gonna have some kind of repercussions. But that's why these investigations need to be followed through and not just like washed away. Guess we'll find out.
Well, I mean, I think the end result, no matter what, even if some kid was trying to do that, Tolentino didn't weigh in and he didn't get to wrestle, whether he was injured, whether he was hurt,
Right.
whether that affects the bracket moving forward at 106. That's everybody else. But I agree with all of you. I think that hopefully, even with the slightest bit of rumor that coaches are sitting down talking to their kids, and maybe that needs to be put out by the governing body and saying, hey, we need to look at this, and this is could be a potential issue. Let's nip it in the butt before it starts.
Makes sense. Well, let's get into 106 then. Henry Asiklian, I think I'm saying that right, from Birmingham.
Aslikian.
Aslikian. That kid is a beast, and this is the only weight, minus 165, where I'm gonna say prior to the tournament that I had him winning. Because
I already said it in the pre-stage show.
you did.
You did.
Don't you
did.
dare, Sean.
I talked
Don't
to
you
like,
dare. How dare you?
hey,
How
so
dare you?
Abram Klein is a good buddy of Henry's, and you know, they're friends and whatnot, and they were both at 106 last year. And I had told Abram before the tournament had even started, I said, Henry is a dog and he is going to be a force to reckon with. And the only reason he wasn't seated higher than 6 was because he had wrestled most of the year at 13s and dropped down for Temecula Battle for the Belt, where people remember Poway did a lot of bumping around for their lineup at Temecula. And
Kikanu was up at 13s.
Exactly. So the two didn't meet. And you know, Henry pretty much runs through Temecula, running into Levi Mazie from Frontier in the finals, and they had a competitive match until Henry got the fall. And yeah, I mean, I think he could have been seated higher. This whole bracket could have been way different depending on had those two actually, Arsini and Henry, met at Temecula. But
I haven't looked it up. How many losses did he have on his record?
I think just one.
Yep.
And that was at 13s. Yeah.
How is he seated 6th with one loss on his record?
Well,
I'll tell you who he lost to.
He wasn't at the weight class, and you got Kikanu 1, you got Garza 2.
Yep.
He had lost to Wilcox, who was St. John Bosco top seed at 13s. I mean, yeah, I agree. Should have been seated higher. The only kid at 106.
It wouldn't have mattered, but
You're right. But the only kid at 106 who was a returning placer was the Zach Hoover from Laguna Creek. Took 8th last year at 106. He's a junior now. He had a loss to Valencia from Merced. And yeah, I mean, obviously the top 4 guys, Kikanu, Garza, Woodward, and Garcia from Palma, they all had really good seasons. So I guess it's hard to move Henry above him, but the better guy won. So that was awesome. I liked it.
He took out 2 top guys. Obviously, he takes out the 2, takes out the 1.
Beats the 3, 2, and 1.
The 3, 2, 1.
Undisputed state champion.
Yeah.
He's the top 3 seeds.
In dominance too. I mean, even his match with Arsini in the finals, like I think he had 3 takedowns.
Yeah,
and I mean the scores are pretty close, but like the kid looked amazing on his feet. I saw a semi in his final, and that was my first time actually watching him wrestle this year, and I was impressed. The kid knew how to wrestle on his feet, and I mean no one was getting after it like he was at that weight. It was pretty cool.
Second part of our juice was spilling. Did hear through the grapevine, as I like to say when you're mentioning Bakersfield, that he may or may not be at Bosco next year. So
wow,
if that happens or not.
Wait, who's
say that again?
The 106-pound state champ may or may not be at Bosco next year.
Dude, how many times is Medeiros going to get poached?
Dude, Jimmy Medeiros. Do you guys know about Jimmy Medeiros?
No.
He's the
He's
man.
got some of the best drip, I think, on the state floor. But dude, I think to quote Carlo, has been quietly building, some really good wrestlers out of Birmingham in the LA section.
He's got a good team.
Yeah, Kasravi, I think, was at Birmingham.
Was there last year, yeah.
Arvin Kasravi, and then if what you say about is that Siklian?
Aslikian.
Man, if he's gone, that sucks.
It's tough. LA City is, you look at the schools themselves, but Birmingham's a tough school. Madero's just does such a good job, but I
How
think it
do you say the heavyweight's name? I'm sorry to interrupt you. How do you say the heavyweight's name from Bosco?
Sahakian.
for Sahakian, yeah.
Hakian, he is another Jimmy Madero's product. by
Yeah,
the
and
way.
so is Grigor, so all those guys came up through, and I could easily see that slide from Henry over to Bosco. It's a bummer for Jimmy Maderos, but and Birmingham, because they hardly ever get any LA City section, place winners.
If it does happen, it definitely puts Bosco in the driver's seat, I think, for next year. You have him, you have Isiklian, you got Wilcox, who bumps up, because I don't think Isiklian's back.
They
to
don't lose
106.
anybody.
Joseph
well,
They
Antonio.
only
yeah,
lose,
they lose Grigor.
They only lose
Yeah.
Grigor. He's the
Yeah.
only one. You bring back Antonio, you bring back Sahakian, you bring back who's that?
Probably they're probably gonna have like 3 or 4 freshmen that are good.
Oh yeah. You bring back Grajeda, you bring back who's the other state finalist I'm forgetting.
Carrillo?
Antonio.
Carrillo.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's
good.
that's a lineup if
They're good.
you want to talk about early predictions for state next year.
Yeah, but think about that. Even if they get 6 champs, that's not 200 points.
You're right.
Like,
No.
so
Poway's still the favorite.
yeah,
Poway graduates a good amount of guys though.
True,
They
but
have 5. They have 5 returning state medalists according to Cal Grappler.
Yeah.
Shout out Cal Grappler.
They graduate a good amount. Platt, Farha, Root, Navita,
Buchanan's loaded,
Baker,
dude.
Kikanu.
Buchanan's still loaded.
Oh yeah, they're all
Buchanan's-
loaded.
yeah,
They're all
Buchanan's
loaded.
gonna
They
be
all
good.
got depth.
Dude, they put up 255 points and took second place. They had
That's insane.
the
That's a
most
crazy stat.
medalists of all times. They tie with Poway with 12. I am not, me, I'm a Southern section boy, so San Diego and Central, whatever, but Troy's, they got 12 freaking state medalists, and Poway got 12. They tied the record. Any other year, Buchanan is just running away with that, but Poway's
The sentiment here in the Central section was that Buchanan was having an off year too.
255 points at state.
Which is
I'm being
scary.
straight with you. I'm being straight
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
I talked with the club coach in the area, and it was just, they're young, they're inexperienced, they're having a down year. I mean, Troy's a great coach. Hats off.
Go back to that juice with Rocha. Where's Rocha at? Obviously moving to Clovis
and
North and getting
he
365.
He wrestled this past weekend, yesterday at cadet and junior state, and I was there and I watched him. That kid's a hammer. I'm actually kind of
He's nice.
mad. I should have, for no reason at all, brought Colin Guffey up to wrestle junior state just to wrestle him at 175. Just because, why not? But that kid, man, he wrestled.
He would have challenged Posada. He'd have been the only one. I guess Antonio
Yeah.
was pretty good, but he's nice. I thought that the final going into this year was going to be him and Posada.
Agreed.
And even we're not there yet, but Posada had a freaking phenomenal run. He had a great season. We're still at 106s with
I'm
Henry,
okay with
but
jumping. I
No,
just
let's
think
jump.
Sean's
Let's jump to 13s. We're gonna jump.
Sean's
to 13s.
Yeah,
Sean's
let's keep it
OCD is
moving.
kicking in.
Yeah,
We'll
Sean
get
likes
there.
to
We'll
be
get
a
Keep it
there.
moving, Sean.
13s. Let's go Sierra and Zinkin. So funny thing about this is during the finals, Brady and I are sitting behind the referees on the floor. We're like down there hanging out with the refs. We're not really hanging out with them, but they're there. We're on the side, and we're just watching the finals from there, waiting for Colin's match at 165. And
There's $1,000 in my wallet, or maybe there isn't.
or maybe there isn't. Good thing it wasn't a controversial match. So because it would have went our way. So during that match, Zinkin gets in on a double in the first period and sits Sierra to his butt. But it's weird because Sierra is almost doing a chest wrap
A
and he's
Steber
kind
position.
of flaring his knees a little bit. And I'm telling Brady, I'm like, that is 2. Time expires. I'm like, that's 2. Brady's like, it's not 2. It's not 2. It's not 2. I'm like, I think it's 2. Match ends. Zinkin wins in the ultimate tiebreaker. Real close match. Ref comes over. And this is what I'm talking about when I say I appreciate the refs at the state tournament. They work their butts off and they are the best of the best. Ref comes over. He's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I think it was 2. Brady doesn't. And he's like, give me a sec. Grabs his phone.
No, I grabbed my phone. He says, hey, pull it up for me. So I
That's
pull it
right.
up. He's like, let me see it. So we look at it and he shows another ref, like the whoever the head ref was, I forget. And he's like, here, what do you think? I don't know. It was hard to tell because he wasn't above his knees. So he didn't like really secure the hips. And then also Sierra's legs were behind him. Like it was weird. It was a Stieber Oliver position with a twist. Like his legs were under his body. They were behind him. So it's like
It was weird.
Did you
was
just
on
make
the-
an Oliver Twist pun?
Oliver Twist.
Oliver
If you
Oh my god. Oh my god.
No,
if
My
you,
side's hurting.
the refs
if you
were
guys go
awesome,
back,
man.
but
This
if you
was-
go back and you listen to Oren and I, we're right there and we're on this like left and right.
This is the
The-
first sequence, right? That
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
It was right.
The
at the
only
first period.
the only thing, and I said it to Oren on the call, I said nothing changed. So, and with that chest wrap, like he sat him to the butt and he had the chest wrap, absolutely zero movement, zero change. There was no progression, there was no progress whatsoever. And he didn't give the 2 at the beginning, and
Wait, but
he had
was it-
stayed tight the whole time. I'm with Brady, no 2. I think it was a good call. But on the opposite side, though, Sean, if they do call the 2 there, then I would have been okay with it as well because nothing changed.
Yeah.
So if he gives the takedown when he goes to his butt, but he wasn't secured the hips, like I mean, he was chest wrapped up top.
I think it was a crotch. I think
No,
he
it
was
was a
wasn't
chest
the
wrap.
crotch.
It was
It
the
was
chest,
chest.
but
It was chest wrap.
Zinkin
I have
Zinkin
footage.
was-
I'm trying to look at it right now.
was below. He didn't have like his hips. It was
I
like
thought he did. I thought he was almost at the butt, but it was because of Sierra's legs and how flexible and weird his legs are that they were like bowed out. And it was almost like in freestyle when you're going to chest wrap and like pop your hips up and try and take it over a shoulder. But he
Mhm.
hadn't done that yet. But it was like it was
Was-
going that
Was
direction. It
Zinkin's
was
head
weird.
kinked in? Was he loaded into the hips?
His head was out on a hip.
Mm.
it
Hmm.
could have been 2 for a second because even the ref, he's like, I think time was out when he touched his butt. He just bounced and he didn't really sit on his butt. It was I don't know. I think if you ask half the refs, they would say would be like, yep, that's a takedown, and half would say no. Like it was such a close call that and luckily, whether they got that takedown or not, the right guy or the guy that should have got the points ended up winning the match anyway. So
Yeah, and that's what the ref told us. And then I'm sorry I forget his name, but he was like, "And that's my last match." Ref,
the one that retired, yeah.
I'm retiring. And I was like, "Oh man, you're going out with a controversial takedown call. That
Yeah.
sucks."
I remember thinking that up in the box. I was like, "Oh, dude, what a way to go out!" Like controversial match. Like, all right,
Ultimate
I'm out.
tiebreaker.
Guys, he was
Yeah.
locked in the crotch. I'm watching it right now. I took footage of the whole thing. He was locked in the crotch the whole time, and he was scooting.
Was he
Never
really?
did Zinkin have 2 legs get him and had him on his butt. Trust me. Like if it was, we would have said if it was a call. I honestly think the refs did such an amazing job this tournament. Granted, I was only there on day 3, but everything I saw on day 3, I didn't see any like egregious calls that I was like, oh man, that's a terrible call. I mean, I'm looking at it
Here-
right now.
I want to say if he's locked in the crotch, it's no 2. But I'll add this caveat: is it possible to get a takedown if they're locked in the crotch in any situation?
Yes.
Yeah, if he's around the hips or if he has both legs that way, but he didn't. It was like a total scramble position, like the entire time. I've looked at this multiple times, but
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
I'm looking at it right now. It's so hard to tell because one of Sierra's legs is back with his
He's
he's like
outward.
scooting around half the time.
but one leg is under him. So his right leg is under his body, like which would be a takedown, but then his other leg is like he's cutting the corner, but Sierra has that leg, that arm inside of there.
Yeah, but Oren, go back and look at your footage. He doesn't switch to the crotch lift until after
after.
the whistle blows.
Yeah.
He's wrapped around the chest with his right
And
hand,
he goes,
and as
yeah.
soon as the whistle blows, he switches off to the crotch lift.
Yep. I'm watching it right
No
now.
2.
I got 2 all day, son. I mean, it is what it is. Zinkin
Let's
still
really
pulled it
talk
off.
about the importance of that match, and that's the busted lip. And
Yeah.
like, so okay, we're gonna praise the trainers here, but that was a massive gash, and the way that they taped him up, and for Sierra to go back, like what a dog.
Yeah.
Like that lip was just brutal blood, and they got that packed, taped so he could get back out on the mat. And I don't know. I think Zinkin had a phenomenal run. You know,
I think a lot of
obviously-
people have looked it over because he beat
Wilcox
Murillo.
like really bad.
Well, he beat Murillo from Canyon Springs, and that kid's, tough freshman. Let me hand it to him. He was a 7 seed. If people were at Doc B, they remember that those two wrestled for third, I want to say.
They did.
And Murillo was winning. And Zinkin did what Zinkin does. He's funky. He does some awkward stuff and put Murillo to his back and pinned him and win the match. And when I saw that those two were meeting in the quarters, I was like, Murillo could win that match. I was very, optimistic, but it was like it could happen.
I had the call for that quarters, and it was a phenomenal match.
Yeah, Zinkin ends up winning 8-3, decisively. And
Guys,
then-
he goes to the crutch right away. Are we
I
talking
know,
about
he goes
the
there
Share your
at
beginning?
screen.
the end.
Share your screen, Oren. Share your
I
screen.
watched it. He went to the
Okay,
crutch
I'm watching
again.
it right now. Am I allowed to share my screen? Can you make me a host really quick? Dude, what are we talking about?
No, he goes
Talking
to
about the
crotch
first sequence after they go out of
Share
bounds,
screen.
right?
No,
Very
it's
true.
so it's literally as time expires in the first
Chest wrap, and then he goes to the crotch.
Okay,
Okay.
here we are, right?
Here we go.
This is what we
Let's
got.
look at
You're
your
way
history
too far.
real
No,
quick.
go. It's literally
No,
as time
you-
expires.
Fast forward.
Keep going. Keep going.
Fast
Keep
forward.
going.
Fast
It
forward.
is like, yeah,
Right
keep
here.
going.
Are we
Give it
gonna
here.
get flagged
Give it
for
here.
this?
No, I don't think so.
No.
It's public. You have a subscription. You're good.
We're at the end of the first period. That's what we're
Right
talking
here,
about.
right here,
Yeah,
right here.
yeah. Watch.
Just
Hey,
watch
look, he's
right
on
here.
a chest.
Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Chest
he's got the
wrap,
arm
chest
locked.
wrap, chest
Yes.
wrap. Still.
And he's got his arm locked.
Okay.
Nothing.
hold on.
But wait,
Just wait. Right here.
Nothing.
Still chest.
Watch his right hand come
Oh.
up. There's the chest wrap.
He's not in the crotch yet.
right there.
Now he's in the
Two.
crotch.
2 takedown.
Yeah.
Time
The
The time was
expired.
out.
Let's look at the time.
Do 10 seconds back. 10 seconds.
You
back.
can't put the time
Literally.
on that because that's not necessarily super accurate, right?
No, that's the official time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
6,
Okay,
leave it here.
5,
4.
4, 3, 2.
Right
I
there.
got 2.
Nothing.
God.
There's a
Time.
chance with 3 seconds
It's
left.
close.
There's a chance.
So
I don't think you could call it at 3 seconds. I think you can only call it at the 1 or 0.
I would say if his leg wasn't there like that and he had
That's-
put all of his weight back on his butt, to me that would have been a takedown. But
That's
with the
what I
way we
think.
see it right here, I wouldn't call that a takedown. It was
think
like
so.
moments away.
Sierra
There's no-
does a
no
great
change.
job of lifting his hips right there with like
Yeah,
1
yeah.
second left on that chest wrap, not a crotch lock, and makes it appear like he's still working. And I think that's what saved him. Because had he sat there for that extra second, they might have gone too.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
what the ref said too. The ref said he hit his butt and popped up. So
Mhm.
he thought it was reaction time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think that's a
I
good
think-
call. I say
And,
no
I think-
too.
and then he retired.
Then he
from
retired.
sport.
Yeah.
What'd
No,
you
I
say,
think
Gallo?
that was a good call, but definitely controversial for sure.
I think Sean nailed the criteria and the details for probably what was in the ref's head. The fact that he's working his hips into him and there's
Yeah.
just enough daylight to see that he is not planted and the takedown
Uh-huh.
is secure. That was a difference maker.
Yeah.
Those
Now I
things-
can talk about my dog in the race here and Brady's dog, Klein, who had that semi with Sierra and Klein.
Brian did.
Off.
Dude, I've got some beef with that match.
What
I was
happened?
Cornering. I was
Air
not.
that beef out. Air that beef out right now.
I'm
You
not.
talking about right at the edge, right in front of the table?
We
That
are-
whole position.
that whole position I thought was scored just butt backwards. And I'm just using the most appropriate language possible. But I just was like, how, like I think they gave him a reversal
Give him a reversal, and it was not a reversal. And then the whole situation played out.
where we got back in on a leg from bottom. So they called reversal. Then we're reworking the position. Now we're back in on a leg. We're trying to finish to get back into our reversal to tie it up 2-2. This is third period, mind you. And Edwin is basically on the edge of the mat, dog crawling off of the mat, trying to get away, fleeing. And we're holding onto the ankle, trying to pull him back in actively. We dive for the far ankle. I don't think we get it. They go loss of control. So now it's 2-1, and that's short time. We don't end up scoring. And I'm just like,
I think that call there is the right call about loss of control, but it's the previous call that Yeah, that was a huge crown. It was right in front of me, right down in front of the camera too. But
This the end of the second, or when was this?
End of
the
the third.
third, end of the third.
Middle
Oh,
of the
I-
third through, because it
You
was
have to ask would Klein's tactics have changed had he not given up two? Did he know he'd given up two? Because if not,
knew.
then okay, so he knew. So the tactics changed once he thought he was down by two.
Yeah.
He was
And I
actively
think
working
that's why we're trying to pull Edwin back
Yeah.
in to try and recreate the reverse, get another reversal to tie it up.
Yeah.
because my only question on that is would the sequence have changed that much? Would he still just get his one? He would still be down by one, and it would be neutral.
No, it was 0-0 at that time, and they gave the Poway kid a reversal, and we were trying to get a reversal. So at that point, it was 2-0, but it should not have been a reversal. We should have still been on top this whole entire time.
Yeah.
So then
I-
it would have been 0-0
No.
out of bounds with about 15 seconds left.
And
And
I
then
don't,
we-
I don't think you
think
could call fleeing the hold in that situation if you're on the mat like that either. Or don't
If
think
No,
that
and
you
especially
call.
because they already called the reversal, and as soon as they called the reversal, you know, I mean, it definitely wasn't fleeing the hold, in my opinion. But I think Abram pulling that ankle back on, it's really the 10, 12 seconds beforehand on, hey, as soon as you know as a wrestler, boom, oh my gosh, I give up the reversal. Now I'm down by two. He knew the score. Yeah, there it goes. Believe me, I was right there with you.
I mean,
Yeah.
they were in that position for probably 10 seconds of
I
us.
10,
can't
12
see it,
seconds.
it's showing.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm watching it right now. It's the first time I'm watching it. It definitely looks like
Kangaroo
Sierra
court.
is fleeing the mat.
Kangaroo court.
Fleeing the mat a little bit. I would think a fleeing the mat call there would have been appropriate. He's trying to leave the mat. He is actively trying to get off the mat.
Yeah, but Oren, if he's on top, they're not going to call fleeing the mat on somebody that's on top. How can
That's
you
the
flee? How can
problem.
you flee the hold? How can
That's
you
the
flee the hold?
problem.
It's not the hold. It's fleeing
It-
the mat.
maybe it's stall.
If
Maybe it's
someone so
stalling.
listen, if someone's trying to score on me and I try to leave the mat, that technically should be fleeing the mat. I'm
Yeah.
trying to avoid a score by running away from the mat, running out of
Yeah,
bounds. And then he got an
Oren's
out of
right.
bounds
The
call.
scoring,
Well, they called two.
Oren's right. The scoring's imminent. The reversal's imminent if he doesn't flee the hold.
Mhm.
Right. So if there's
Did they give him
imminent
a loss of
scoring
control?
sequence-
Yeah, they
Yeah,
gave
they
him.
gave us
Yeah.
lost.
Okay, so that's when.
So that was
got a
my
call.
original argument. So that's what I'm going back to is, I mean, if you would have got if is it Sierra? If Sierra would have gotten an escape anyways, nothing changes. What I'm saying.
You wouldn't
If
have
the
gotten
sequence
escape, though.
ends,
There
He's
was
in
no-
the top position.
If we were on top in that where we're pulling him in, if it was still 0-0, it wouldn't have been loss of control because we still had that guy's foot. It was only loss of control for us because we broke contact and we were trying just to get a reversal.
Right, but
If
if
it wasn't, we
if the
still would've been-
reversal was not called, it could have been
No,
easily a
you're correct.
1-0 win for fleeing the mat, or in this case,
Yeah,
the
I think
escape.
Sierra's tactics would have changed had it been
I agree.
0-0 as well,
agree.
which would have
Yeah, for
changed
sure.
a lot.
It
Would have
would have changed
a lot.
everything because
Yeah.
I agree with Brady. Had the reversal not came,
Brady's right.
I don't think Edwin tries to kick out the way he did.
No.
Correct.
Totally
Now
That's correct.
listen. We're trying to score there. Klein's got to pull him all the way to the center because that's a risk that you're taking, staying close to the edge of the mat. Sierra, you can physically feel him trying to leave. Take him to the center. Give yourself room to wrestle. These CIF mats, at the end of the day, I noticed were very small.
Mhm.
Wasn't a lot of room to wrestle on, and I was very surprised about that. But I mean, that's what fits in the arena. But
What did you think about the reversal? Go back about 10 seconds before you started watching that and see what.
Play. Share it. Share it.
Share,
Oren.
share it again.
Let's
Share it
do it.
again. I
Share
like
it.
this.
good. I like this.
Dude,
It's
we're
gonna
at
be a
we're at
two-part
13.
podcast. We're gonna get through 126, and then
I'm gonna
we'll
be copyright
continue
infringement
tomorrow.
to rack up in
I'll
one
go back
show.
a tiny bit more. So
Oh, more,
Klein's here on the bottom. He's looking for-
Go
More.
one more.
More.
Another 10 seconds. Yeah, because this is where the reversal comes.
Okay.
Okay. So Sierra's
Oh,
on top.
like a
Sierra's in
near fall.
control.
We're on top here.
It's like there's near fall.
We're still on top.
No,
Yeah,
he's not
that's
close enough to the
near
mat
fall.
for near fall. Nah.
What?
They
He
had
does
no
have a
warning
leg-
off his
thing
back.
yet.
He does have a leg hooked here on an Iowa, but we're not on a hip.
Ooh,
No, he's on
yeah.
top,
I wouldn't.
Brian.
I wouldn't have even given that reversal.
We're not on a
I
hip.
think. Wait.
So hold on. Can we
Wait,
pause for a
Carlo,
second?
you know that position.
Yes.
Go
yes.
back. Go
Can
back.
pause
We
for a
know this
second?
position. Yeah. Yeah.
One
Yeah.
second.
This is our best position right here. Go back it up.
You go back, or I can talk
Back
you
it
through
up.
this position.
Right. Freeze right there.
Wait, I'll freeze when he Is it like about to
Is
get?
he in the hole right here? We can't tell. Is he in the hole?
He's in the
He's
hole.
got the arm.
He has an Iowa.
He has an Iowa.
That's okay. So freeze it right there. So this is controversial. This actually is in the rule book. This exact position is scoring criteria for, I guess in this case, the reversal, but the same thing with the takedown. You can be
100%.
Gotta be on a
you can
hip.
be elbow deep on the leg. You can be like head like on the leg, just like Sierra, or I guess who's on top right now? Klein.
Sierra.
Sierra's on top.
So Klein's
Sierra's
right
on
here.
top.
Sierra's right here.
You can be in the hole in the Iowa with your leg elbow deep with the guy on bottom, and I guess that's criteria.
Yeah, but you also have to look at his left hand. His left hand is controlling the second point of contact with the ankle. So
No, I don't agree. I don't agree that's control, by the way. I don't agree. I think that's a Bush League call. We had one of our guys
Did
losing
Sierra
overtime.
have the
That
Iowa,
exact
though?
situation.
He does, but I'm gonna show you I have the rule book up on my phone. The
There's
rule
a
book
picture of it
shows-
in the rule book, Sean.
No, it's
The
There's
not
rule
the
book
rule
shows
book.
a picture of this position, but the bottom wrestler, which in this case is going to be Klein because the other guy's getting a reversal, needs to be on a hip.
Thank you, Brian. Brian.
Yeah.
We had
That's
this
not.
exact
That's not how
controversy.
it's called. That's not how it's called.
God,
I
whether
don't
it
want-
is
no,
or
I
isn't,
agree with Sean.
whether it
Okay,
is
I
or
agree
isn't,
with Sean.
Can I call a timeout? So
Timeout.
Sean sees what I see.
this is
No,
this
Sean
is
sees what
before
I see.
I forgot what match, but Carlo and one of our assistants, Josh Davis, had I don't know how long of a conversation about this, where they just walked away. For the sake of time and how long this episode has been, can we just move on?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with
But
it.
Sean
too.
sees
I
what I
want
see.
to point out
The basis of my argument is that
Go ahead.
yes, Abram Klein lost the match, but that kid's a dog and came back and took third as a senior, took third the year before, beat Lewis and Sadu on the backside, and that kid's gonna be a hammer at Maryland. That's all I got.
I want to talk about Sadu. So Sadu's dad, I think, wrestled with Sean Sheets, I want to say, maybe at Fresno State. The 11th seed. He loses early in the tournament, maybe second round, and battles back. Wrestles the 14th seed from Folsom, wrestles Castillo from Central, who Castillo's pretty tough. Beats him 8-2 in the blood rounds. Beats the Valencia from Merced. Beats Wilcox 3-1, and then has a pretty close match with Klein. Pretty impressive to make that kind of run. I mean, that's
I couldn't
almost
believe he was an 11 seed. The kid's a hammer. He placed at state last year.
yeah.
no, that
Different
kid's
weight.
tough, man.
This is a tough weight though.
Yeah.
That kid's tough. I remember watching. It was during COVID when all those tournaments were going down in Laughlin, and Siraj and Slater Hicks, the Valencia kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think they wrestled twice in the same tournament, and I happened to be there watching, like waiting for my kid to wrestle. Man, they were going at it. Like both of these, and they were only at that time 6th or 7th grader. I don't know. And I was like, dude, these kids are gonna be good. And I mean, it turns out they're both really good. Slater, obviously, we'll get to that this next weight. I think that kid is really, really good. I just think he had a bad tournament. I don't know.
Yeah. Slater, no, we're not Sean. I'm gonna kick you
Carlo.
off. We're not talking
I just
about
want
that
to show
anymore.
Carlo.
Show Carlo. All right, moving
Your
on.
phone doesn't show, it's blurring.
I know the
There's
picture.
control
Sean.
by the wrestler on top, even though the hands of the opponent are locked around the leg. The top wrestler has the opponent off the base.
I'm gonna
and
mute you.
the hip.
We're moving on, Sean. That was the
Just
agreement.
saying. I'm just saying.
Sean might be
No,
having
Sean
a
doesn't
beverage.
understand. I agree with Sean. I don't know why he's showing me. Don't show.
I'm so
Do not
showing you
agree.
because you support me, Carlo. That's why.
Send him. Why don't you send him a screenshot later? 120.
120s.
How do you
120s.
feel
I'll send
about
him something
20s?
later. Don't worry about it.
I gotta
He's
say,
muted.
I gotta
He's
say, Carrillo from St. John Bosco was so impressive, and he's a freshman, right? Freshman or sophomore?
Sophomore.
Underclassman, regardless. That kid is impressive. He is slick on his feet. And like, I mean, Ramirez beats him 4-1, but Ramirez looked great, 2-time state champ. The kid's a stud. But dude, I'm impressed. St. John Bosco, they're loaded, and this dude is just he's something else. I liked him.
So he beat Quintero twice in a row. You know, he beat him the week before at Masters and then came back and, you know, ultimately beat him again. It's a terrible matchup for Quintero. But take nothing away from Carrillo. That guy is a machine on top. Oren, you had mentioned that he wrote him out, but Ronnie Ramirez is the class of that weight, and he just proved it. You saw it in the finals, opened up the lead, but stays square every time. I mean, Carrillo's going to be impressive along the way, but no one was stopping Ronnie Ramirez at 20s.
No.
Nobody. And he's a two-timer.
He's nasty, man. He's so good. I can't wait to see where he's gonna go.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with Hicks on the backside. It says he got pinned. Now
I didn't see it. I heard it. Yeah.
I talked to Chance Rich after we were roommates. This was the room I'm in right now is actually his old room. But this was his first time on the floor, so he was pretty animated about it and pretty excited and was fired up on the outcome. I kind of told him, I'm like, dude, it doesn't change who Slater Hicks is. Like, the results of this tournament doesn't necessarily change who you are or what you can be. Slater Hicks is still a pretty tough wrestler. He's just, all right, you made a mistake. Got to get better now. So disappointed he didn't get on the podium, but things happen. And you got to move forward. And he's still young.
I coach with Chase Pammy at a club here in Vegas called Gold Rush. And just recently he was telling all the kids that you're not defined by your wins and your losses. And I think it's very important for coaches to, first of all, believe for themselves, but also to preach to their kids. Because a kid like that, he loses, gets pinned in the blood round and doesn't place, and he's probably going to be hard on himself. But I think hopefully his coaches were saying, man, you're not defined by this. Doesn't say who you are. So shout out Chase Pammy.
No, that kid's going to be good. I'd almost put money on it that he'll be in the state finals next year at any weight. That kid is really, really, really good. And I just watched it as you guys were statement. He got near side cradled off bottom. He just kind of did a stand up, looked in, and RJ's pretty long and just slapped a cradle on him and stuck him. But no, 120s was a fun weight. What's crazy is Ronnie was at 13s at Doc B. So I mean, I don't know what his position was, because he didn't make it until like the league or whatever at Southern section.
Oh.
But man, what? Yeah,
what a monster.
Really good.
My assumption is they had to have looked at it like it's a 3-day weigh-in. Ronnie's a big dude for 13.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in the finals at La Costa Canyon in December at 120s. Abram was in the finals at 13s. They were standing next to each other, and Abram is by no means, the biggest 13-pounder. But Ronnie is significantly bigger. He's tall. His shoulders are super broad. And when he made the cut down to 13s, I was like, dang, like that's big. And yes, Doc B is like +3 for the first day or whatever, and +4 for the second day. So maybe they looked at it like mid-January, I'm guessing, early February, and said, let's see how the body feels and looks, but 3-day weigh-ins, that's not fun. So it worked out in his favor.
Oh yeah.
And I think that he saw Mendoza, obviously that dynamic of, all right, I can take this kid out. Should I stay down at 13s and struggle with the weight and have to deal with, Zinkin, Wilcox and all those guys, or do I go up to 20s and do I just feel healthy and stay my size and don't have to really worry about the weight cut and stay big and stay strong and take it to him? What he did with Mendoza in the tiebreaker, okay, that's a tough match, and then that got him through the finals, and then just absolutely opened up on Carrillo. But sometimes it's that weight, obviously we'll see it a couple weight classes later with Cepeda coming down from 50s to make the cut, but going up a weight class, feel healthy, feel strong, get something to eat, and not have to worry about that mindset of cutting weight and making weight 3 days in a row.
True.
At 126, now Carlo has this, I don't want to call it infatuation because I think this kid's a minor. But Jeff Lopez from Clovis West is Carlo's boy. Carlo, why do you like Jeff Lopez so much?
Boy's a dog. Simple as that. Wrestles hard in all positions, unheralded. Clovis West is doing their best to make a resurgence, and it's fun to see a leader emerge. I mean, this kid, we watched him also since COVID. Like, he was at the Garces tournament. I think as COVID was starting to get lifted in the offseason, like, he's in this Bakersfield Podunk tournament that's meaningless. And we see this kid who's talented, but not yet established in this little tournament with no AC. It's hot, sweltering in the gym. I don't know if you remember Sean Sheets and that. I think it might have been a Golden Valley dad getting into it that same day. And
I
there's,
don't think it was Golden Valley, but
Love Mr.
anyways,
Sheets.
go ahead.
Love him.
but you know who I'm talking
Yeah, I
about.
know exactly what you're talking about.
But there's Lopez in that tournament, just putting work in, man. And it was just fun to see him evolve. And all of a sudden, here's a stud who's jumping levels right before your eyes. So I just appreciate his story arc.
And he beat up Cortez. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that
5-1.
match,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, if you physically look at that match, like,
So
again,
confident.
Gilroy was
Wrestling
having
so
a
confident.
tough. Gilroy was having a tough 20 minutes there, obviously, with Mendoza losing that tough one, and then here comes Cortez, and you get Lopez beating
Back to
him,
back Cortez, brother.
and then bam, back to back another Cortez at the next weight down. So 3 of their guns going out in a matter of 10, 12 minutes. But yeah, Lopez looks solid.
No, he does. And I think, Brady, you were with me when, God, I'm trying to remember who was talking about it. Someone was saying, it might have been Brady, might have been Coach Justin, but someone was telling me that Lopez, like, when you say he's a dog, that's exactly the
Yeah.
phrase I would use, because he will talk smack to you if you're his opponent, like, he's gonna tell you, like, oh, you might have got me this time, but you're not getting me next time. Like, he'll tell you straight up.
Wants to meet you in the parking lot, for lack of better term.
Yes. Yeah. And I
Sure.
like that. I like that. That's competitive. And he's not I wouldn't say he's overly showboating. I wouldn't say he's, overly aggressive, pushing people when they shouldn't
He
be
just
pushing, stuff like that.
swells up when the match gets big.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrestles hard.
I forget who he wrestled in the Masters finals, but I think he didn't get a win in the Masters finals. He got an upset.
It was Zinkin, wasn't
Thinking.
it?
He
Yeah.
wrestled
No, but he-
Zinkin in the finals. He beat Besmer.
Yes, in the
Mm.
semis.
It might have
He
been
beat
Besmer.
Besmer. Yeah.
And after the match, he's like, "I live for this." Like, yelled it into the camera. Like, he just loves the moment.
Yeah.
So much.
I like it.
He's a good kid. I talked to him like, what grade is he a sophomore?
He's a junior.
He's junior.
So it was his freshman year at World Challenge, and I didn't know who he was at the time, and he was working a table, and like something happened, and I just was talking to him. And then last year I saw him, I'm like, oh dang, this kid's pretty good. Like, all right. And then now I see him, and
he's just unfortunately in that
I feel like
Clovis
he should've-
area because of, like, Zinkin's beaten him 3 times.
he should have cut
Yeah.
Zinkin. He tried
A
to
lot.
ride for too long. You're like, you're down 3-0. Get yourself in your best position, neutral. Try to get
Yeah.
some takedowns. Like, you just wasted too much time on top. I feel like
Give yourself time. They don't give themselves time. What are you gonna ride him and turn him? Like, no, dude. Zinkin's gonna lay there. He's not gonna do anything. He's gonna pretend like he's working.
Yeah.
I just,
You know,
I just don't understand. That's something that I always preach. It's like, you got to be strategic. Like, give yourself 2 full minutes to take the guy down. You're gonna.
you
need
were
it.
pretty adamant about that on the call, and I was
Yeah.
the opposite. I have to
Yeah.
go back to that match, and I'm like, dude, like, okay, do the coaches let him go at 1 minute? Do let him go at 1:15? Or
Uh-huh.
do you got a chance to turn him?
I
And you're
think
like, no, go on your feet right away. And I'm
It
like, well,
depends on the
It's
kid.
easier. It's
Depends on
easier
the
to
kid.
get near fall off of a takedown than I think it is to try to catch somebody like that
Oh, yeah.
that knows I have I'm
Depends on the
3-0.
kid.
Debatable. You look at a
Depends on
kid
the
like
kid.
Colin Guffey, he's more than likely.
Yeah,
to
he
be
should have
on
cut him
top.
against Mantanona, but that's
That's
my opinion. That's all right.
What a deep cut.
I knew that was
Yeah.
coming. I knew that.
Yeah, because we had this conversation before.
You're right. You're
What,
right.
you tell me what Colin's best position is.
state champ.
No, tell me,
I'll
Brian.
tell you what Colin's best position is. No. You put him in wrestling positions. You put him in a sequence, in a scramble.
You're right.
That's his best position.
You're not
Listen,
wrong.
You
Listen.
throw him.
Yeah.
If you
I don't
if
know.
you- if
He's
you-
got
if
a
you can put him in a
pretty
50
mean ride
if
on
you can
top.
put Colin Guffey in a 50-50 position and what conventionally would be considered a 50-50, that's his best position. He's going to
You're
win that
right.
position.
You're right. But at that time, he was probably wrestling the only person that might have been a better scrambler than him
That's
in
true.
that weight. and that guy was Bo Mantanona, and he was the number
Yeah.
one kid in the nation, and we had to take him down 2 times. I think we had good.
Oh, I'm
chances
not
of
criticizing
turning
your
it.
call, by the way. Yeah, I don't know what the best call.
Or he's
I
stalling, or he stalled the whole third period. You cut him, you get a stall call and maybe a takedown at the end.
Because what's his goal on bottom at that point? I need to not get turned. Screw getting up. I need to not get turned. If he's trying to get up, cool. Guffey's gonna have a chance, slip something in, put him on his back. But if he's just trying to not get turned, the guy's just gonna sit there, avoid, try to look like he's working. It's
Just
strategic.
like
You got to
Zinkin
be
did.
strategic on both sides of the ball.
Now,
got
correct me if I'm wrong though. Lopez, diverting back, Lopez is a freestyle Greco guy. If I believe he was at Fargo this past summer.
I think so.
So is
meaning
Zinkin, I
him-
think.
Yeah, but
yeah,
Zinkin's
I mean,
so
is Zinkin
unbelievably
too.
tough
I mean,
on his feet.
I'm not taking anything away from
He's
Zinkin.
good upper
but
body, dude. He launches people at some
I
point.
know Lopez has some
Yeah.
upper body stuff if he needed
He's
it.
dynamic. He's dynamic. Yeah.
Would have
Um,
been cool to see, a little bit more time on the feet as to what could have happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Nick
Well,
Cade take him down again.
Good for Zinkin.
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, Zinkin was dominant. Or
Yeah.
Down block
that's
and
it.
blast him with another underhook.
Zinkin controlled his turn.
32s. We moving on?
Yeah, let's go to
Let's move on.
32s.
Are we only at 32s?
Yes,
Yeah.
we
I
are.
can't make it through this, guys. I'm not much longer for this 14 weight thing. Stop my bedtime. But I'll give it the college try right now. Let's go.
For the college
We
track.
could, we could meet same time next week and do the back half.
There's
Yeah,
an
we
idea.
can.
Part 2?
No, let's go.
Till that's my
I got
9-year-old
morning-
about to
Brian,
go
I
to
got
bed.
morning practice tomorrow. You know it's past my bedtime already. But let's
I
do
know
it.
it
Let's
is.
go. Let's
So
We
go.
had
what-
to talk about that damn call for like half an hour.
Yeah, we could. I want to know what the match between Gutierrez and Navita was like in the semis.
Who was there?
Brian was.
It was just impressive. It really
Yeah.
was. That's a tough that semis matchup being I think it was 3-1. Did it end up 3-1? Yeah, it ended
Yeah,
up 3-1.
3-1, yeah.
That's that train that you start talking about, when you start looking at that quarters and that semis where, okay, here comes Sierra getting, well, obviously Kikanu gets in and then Sierra gets in, and then you're starting to see this huge momentum push, and Navita's just got Gutierrez and takes it to him, gets through, and I don't know. I mean, once I saw that semis match, I was like, okay, he's probably going to have Grajeda on the other side, but like he just looked good. He had a bounce in his step that was like, I'm ready. Like I'm a state, obviously he was state medalist a couple years prior, and he was ready to go last year too. But Navita had a very impressive run. Totally with that guy. It was good.
Yeah.
Nice semis.
No, and honestly, after watching Grajeda semis with Cortez, I was like, it's this kid's weight to win, and it's his weight to lose. And I mean, he was so impressed. He's a freshman, right? I keep getting the ages confused.
Grajeda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that kid, I mean, I love the way Carrillo wrestles, and I feel like Grajeda wrestles like Carrillo ×2. He's super slick, so smooth on his feet. I love the way he was moving Navita, but man, I mean, Navita came to win. Navita came to do what he needed to do. Didn't give up where he needed to not give up a takedown, and then got that takedown at the end. And
that scramble
Yep.
in the finals to win it, like,
Yep.
I mean, he's
That was
getting
sick.
taken down.
that's
That
right.
was sick.
He just dives for the ankle,
That's
gets
right.
the gator roll. I mean, a little shout out to Oren and I, a little pat on our back. What did we get? The number one takedown of that was the number one takedown of California State,
Yeah.
according to Flo.
Dude,
But
that
he
was
got
a
his hips
ballsy
high.
takedown.
It was so unbelievable. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm getting taken down. I got nothing to lose. I'm going to go for that ankle. And he hits the ankle and he pops out the backside and then just kept driving his hips and gets his hip high, and they get their champion. Like
Yeah.
and that sets the ball. What's the old phrase? If you're going to win a state team title, you got to have at least one individual champion. And they got him. They got it with Navita. And I just totally saw the elation on Myers' face. That was right next to us. And I looked at Oren, and Oren looked at me, and I'm like, they get their champ. Like, they got it. And he was impressive on that scramble at the end.
Mhm.
One of the best state final scramble I've seen in a long time. And
No,
for
it
him
was
to
good.
he sacrificed himself. Like, I'm getting taken down, I'm going to go for it. And he got it.
And props to Navita. So that Gutierrez match, that kid's good. Obviously, he's
Mhm.
being coached by Saavedra. You know, he's going through some stuff personally. Gutierrez is as well. I mean, everyone's seen it all over the forum. But Navita on top of over the last 4 years I've watched him. That dude's leg riding. Not going to say he turns a lot of dudes, but him and I'd say Contino are some of the best at putting legs in and not getting reversed, not letting go. Like those two dudes are backpacks. Like they just stick on your back. They shallow
Yeah.
boot ride, they cross body ride, they go back and forth, and they just freaking they're on top, glued. I think Navita, who just recently committed to UNC to go over there
Mhm.
with Root,
Mhm.
is pretty cool. I think he's going to be a good college wrestler. I think, he needs to develop a little bit on his feet offensively, but he's got top down. And I think if he can build riding time in matches and keep those legs in, he's going to be hard to beat. And I think he's going to do good things out there. It'll be pretty cool to see him wrestle for Coach Cole.
Mhm. Agreed.
38.
Let's go
138.
38s.
Zepeda, Carlo, I think you called it. He was at 150s and he
Mhm.
dropped down 2 weights. Is
Yeah.
that you called that?
That was the last
Brian called
podcast
that
that
too, I
we were
think.
on.
You guys both called it.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously kind of we saw that bump, but we didn't know if he was going to go down to 44s. And then as soon as that opened up and Mendoza, okay, does he slide? Like what's going on? And then him getting to 38s and just, being a 5 seed at 50s and then coming down 2 weight classes. He showed why he was out there at who's number one. That guy can wrestle.
Mhm.
And he took it to
Paul Kelly.
his match against Simmons in the I went back and watched that one. Oren, I think you had that one, right?
Yeah.
They all blend in now that
It
I
was
watch it on
competitive.
film.
I think the weight cut got to him a little bit now that I think about it in that semis match.
That's exactly where I'm going with it. Yep. You could see him just kind of struggling a little bit. Again, take nothing away from Simmons, but I went back and I was watching that video and you could just see, all right, well, you only got to win one.
Mhm.
Let's get it to the finals. And that was an early match for sure.
Yeah, I was watching that one. I was like, I mean, I know Simmons is great. He's a 2-time state placer, but I was like, Zepeda's on a new level. He seemed slow and like kind of gassed. So I was like, it didn't register in my head. I'm like, what's going on? But now, I mean, you saw him in the finals. He looked good. He felt good. He was, and business like too. He's just
he also just saw his 3
like,
guys lose.
all right.
He sees
Yeah.
Cortez's,
Yep.
he sees Cortez, he sees Mendoza. Like he's
Yeah.
thinking to himself, "Oh my gosh, dude, what kind of train wreck are we in?" So
Mm-hmm.
he could have been a little bit tight there. I didn't get to talk to him or anything like that, but Brady, I was with you. You could tell that he something, whether it was the weight cut or just the nervousness of that. But hey, he persevered and got to the finals that night and took care of some business for sure.
Yeah.
I thought Paul Kelly was going to give him a better match, and I'm not taking anything away from Paul Kelly. Paul Kelly's a hell of a wrestler. Zepeda was just different.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I thought that match was going to be very competitive. There's a lot of people, the chatter buzz was, who you got? Zepeda Kelly, Zepeda Kelly, Zepeda Kelly. And I was like, man, I mean, I don't know. Kelly's good.
That's a pick 'em. That's a true pick 'em. Before you saw the match, it was a pick 'em. After you see
Yes.
the match, you're like, obviously Zepeda.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I watched Kelly's all his matches out at Hall of Fame duels. I think you guys brought that up on the live stream, and the kid had a great season. Won Doc, had a really tough weight at Doc. And just looked really good. And I really thought his pace was gonna be equal to Zepeda, who also has a high pace and high output. And Zepeda just it looked like he just was a step ahead and he really dominated.
Yeah, he looked outstanding in that finals match. He scored defensively, offensively. He was outstanding on bottom. Paul Kelly was really tough on top. So that was, I don't know if Paul Kelly could put too much energy in the top position at that point because he was losing by a takedown or two. But I mean, he just looked great. It was not what I expected.
All right, 144s.
Of course. Ooh, I like this one.
Stop.
Who called
it was not a
Kareem Maribel?
locking hands.
It was
not-
locking hands.
It was not. They're out of bounds, dude.
No,
They're
he
out of
head
bounds.
planted. He head
Oh.
planted.
They're out
I
of
don't know.
bounds.
Yeah, they're out of
Oren,
bounds.
I am
you
a
called
big
it too.
proponent of you do not leave matches into the referee's hands. Which
Yeah.
was done I think Toscano let the refs decide that
Yep.
match for him.
Yep.
He loses because of that factor. But watching it back, I think it was locking hands.
He's out of bounds. He's out of bounds.
I'm gonna bring it up in a second, boy.
Young
But I,
Jamie.
Timeout.
But
I have to
I
say,
doubt you'll have a good camera angle.
Toscano is so good. Why does he? I mean, it's got to be frustrating. I don't know if he just shuts down, but
it's
No,
2 years in a row.
I think Mirabel knows, like, the kid is a smart wrestler who knows how to win. He doesn't do anything super impressive. He won in the quarters against my guy, 5-1, 8-4 against Carini, which actually I didn't see that match, but to me that's impressive. But everything else I saw of Mirabel was like very just like tight matches, knows how to win, can kind of get it where he needs to, and that's basically it. I wasn't not harking on the guy at all, but I wasn't super impressed. I felt like he was there to win, and there was nothing kind of showy about any of his wrestling.
He's very solid, doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Like if you
Well,
if
he
you
got
have like
extremely
bar-
flustered. And Oren, you called it too. Like you could see him he was really upset about that call.
Mhm.
And ultimately, you even said it on the broadcast. You're like, you got plenty of time to get an escape here, man. And he gets busted. He gets hit with 2 cautions trying to roll that whistle. So I truly, truly, truly believe that it got to him. It flustered. He didn't compose himself enough. Could have easily got out. But
he looked
They-
like at the end of the match he wanted Troy to protest it, and Troy just walked
Yeah.
off.
because
like,
I think
wow.
Troy understood that number one, the locking hands is out of call or out of bounds. But number 2, that's a judgment call. There's no way they're going to overturn that. They're going to stick with that call.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree with you that it is a judgment call and that there shouldn't be able to overturn it. But if you think about State like 3 years ago, they overturned one of the like most craziest calls after the match was already over. And
But that wasn't was it a
made
subjective call? It was a scoring
That was an
sequence.
escape, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's not a
It
subjective.
wasn't
That's,
locking
that's
hands.
there's
Uh,
criteria.
they overturned in that same tournament like 2 or 3 calls. One guy got pinned. I think they overturned that call and he ended up making the finals.
Paul
Like,
Sharp versus, or not Sharp, I'm sorry.
No.
It was Buchanan and
Buchanan and the guy was from Arlington from Southern Section.
yes,
The kid.
yes.
Oh, video glitches.
Yeah.
But that guy ended up
Anyways,
wrestling Paul Sharp.
Yes. But I mean, what did you guys think about Mirabel's celebration? Was that like
It's got to stop. It has
Okay.
to stop
I
whatsoever.
didn't know if
What
that
was
was
it?
like a
Remind me.
Gilroy thing.
I didn't
I
see
mentioned it on the call. He didn't necessarily, I mean, you're talking about the slamming of the headgear and then ultimately the baby stuff.
The baby thing. I didn't know if that was like a team thing or if that was like directed at the other. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think any of it was egregious to the other team, but the slamming of the headgear it just has to stop. Like, it's unsportsmanlike. I don't.
I like the
I
headgear.
think
I
they were
don't.
doing it. I think they were doing it literally because it was unsportsmanlike. They were just rebelling against the rule. They all knew they're going to lose a point.
I think so too. I think at that point it's like we're not going to win the state. We're third, whatever. Like I'm just going to spike my head.
Yeah, we're 20 points ahead. Like, let's pick
But-
it up and slam it twice.
But the
you
baby
know?
thing, I don't know about. Like, I don't like that. If you're directing that at the other guy, that's kind of messed up. But
Yeah, I agree. Is it a "who's your daddy" kind of comment, or is it the rock the cradle? I think the most impressive part of that was freaking watching it on the film and seeing DC catch the headgear on the
he
fly.
does, dude.
Oh, he did, yeah.
catches the headgear midair.
Catches
And
it on
then-
the fly.
And then he fist pumps like right after it.
What an
It
athlete.
would have been a lot cooler if he
Athlete.
spiked the headgear right after he
What
caught it.
an athlete.
Wait,
I-
can a coach? Wait, hold on. Can a coach spike a headgear? Is that team
Absolutely.
point?
Try it. Find out.
Dude,
No
that's
way.
how we celebrate.
No
Hey,
way.
give me the
What are they
headgear. I
What are they
spike
going to
it.
do? Kick him out of the tournament?
So like our wrestler
They'd
hands
still
you the
give him
headgear.
that.
You spike the headgear.
Yes. Yes.
That's
I always
it,
like.
Brian.
I always liked. I think it was AJ Ferrari. I think he lost the point in the finals. This like I don't know what match it was, and then not in the finals,
It
and
was
maybe
the
like
quarterfinals.
yeah,
and then
then
in
the
the
semis.
finals he pretends to slam it and then like gently hands it to Smith instead.
That's
he
fine.
like asked his coach, like, "Can I do it? Can I do it?" And then he does. He's like, "Yeah."
Just to round off this weight, I think the freshman Carini from Poway was absolutely exceptional. Yeah, it loses 8-4 to Mirabel, but taking third as a freshman at 144, I don't think is very easy. I didn't expect that from him either. So I was pretty
He beat the
impressed.
3 seed in the quarters.
Because Masters finals, he goes ultimate tiebreaker with Caro, 7th seed, who didn't even place. They were 6 and 7. And so I was super impressed by what that kid did. And I think he's got a bright future ahead. I think finals are in his future next year, most likely.
Yeah,
One
he's-
of you guys
we
called
on-
it too, right?
What was that?
Brian and Carlo. I think one of you guys called Carini doing well in the state tournament. I think.
It was
didn't
Carlo,
I didn't
'cause
expect it.
I think
Yeah.
remember he had that really tough first round matchup against Humphreys, but didn't they re-roll the bracket there? Wasn't 44s? Yeah, like if I remember, like he was supposed to go against Humphreys, I think.
No, that was
and
a
then-
different weight.
No, they rolled 44s, I think, right?
44s?
Yeah, didn't like the 4 seed or something not make weight or
No, that was
no?
65.
Yeah, that was 65s. Something happened with the bracket. It was a different bracket. I think it was because 2 section guys were up against each other when we
The 4
first
seed
saw it.
missed weight at 165s.
No, the
Or you
3
saying the
seed-
4 we didn't
We're gonna
show
get there.
up
Hold
because
on,
we
hold
got
on, hold
hot.
on.
The 3.
One-
Here's the thing.
Let's go to
Here's the thing,
150.
guys. You guys can soldier on. I'm gonna probably graciously bow out. But before I do, since we're talking about Poway, I just and I know you and Poway kind of have your own thing, but I thought I want to give all the props to Myers. Dude, I'd never seen a team as prepared for not just the state meet, but for the entire season as Poway. And I started wrestling as a freshman, 1997, 1998. That is the best team in California I've ever seen
Mhm.
from top to bottom.
Yep.
So just crazy. But I'm gonna bow out right here, boys. It's been good talking. Good luck getting through the rest of the way.
See you,
Later,
Carlo.
Carlo.
150s.
Let's go, dude. What a weight, 150s.
This was nuts.
What a weight, 150s. Jeez.
Let me
Sorry,
ask
Brian.
you, Brian, because you got a big dog in this race.
Yeah.
Do you think Parco and Laird should have switched seeds after Laird takes third at San Diego section because of an illegal slam call? When Parco wins his section, Central Coast.
I don't think it matters. I think Brock is. I'm just looking at it. I think Brock is probably the clear favorite, and I think with Miguel, Parco, and Root, I think they're a close second, and I think it's all marginal. So I think however you seed them, you're going to have to beat 2 tough guys if you want to be a state champion. The margin for victory, if you look, I watched both semis. I watched the 3rd and 4th place match, obviously. And then I watched the finals. Again, the margin for victory and the margin for error, all those matches are very small. You can go either way. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Well,
and
each
Brock-
one of those
Brock was
each
able
one
to
of
get
those
both of them.
matches were decided. Obviously the overtime match that you guys had, but then you look at Montanona and Parco, that was a 1-point match. And then
Super close.
you look at the finals with Montanona and Root being a 5-4 match. So all 4 of those guys, it was a 4-horse race, and any of them could have pulled that off. Unfortunately for you, Brian, getting Root in the semis in a rematch from last year. But you talked about it with Myers and that level change and him, Root getting out of the stance and boom, taking the shot on the podcast with John Myers. But 4 matches right there. Obviously the 2 semis, the final and the 3rd place match, so margin of error was so tiny.
That semi with Root Estrada was like such a replay of last year's final. I thought it was so cool. Regardless of how it ended, but just like they were going at it. Estrada was shooting over and over. Root was getting in on what he needed to get in on. I think it was a very smart wrestled match by Root. I think they game planned perfectly for Estrada. I don't know how many high crotches he got in that
Like
3rd period
5.
and that overtime.
5 or 6.
So many. That like the fact that Poway dad was yelling stalling was like crazy to me. I'm like, dude, the guy's shooting. You can't call stalling when he's shooting. But I mean, I think Root, the game plan perfectly for it. He was able to just block off the high seat enough to not get scored on. And I mean, Root just seemed like he was ready to win the whole tournament in his mind. And I feel like a lot of them are. But with what he was able to do in the finals with Mantanona, how many times Mantanona had his leg up in the air, dead to rights? They're fighting hands. I can't remember. I think Posada did the same thing. These guys that have them dead to rights, they're grabbing hands, they're slowly working, and eventually they get their leg down. And it's like, dude, it is very impressive the way that he was able to do that multiple times to Mantanona, but how he was able to block off the high seat with Estrada, and then his double leg was unstoppable. Mantanona couldn't even stop it. And my big thing that I have to say about that is he should have just kept shooting that double leg on Mantanona if he wanted to beat him.
That's
It's
my thing.
It's hard. It's hard to do that.
No, but
It's hard to
I
do,
think
but
look at history, right?
Yeah.
Look at what Lemus did to Montanona last year in the finals.
Yeah.
Takedown cut, takedown cut, takedown cut. Root gets the first takedown, goes crossface, far tricep, tries to go near leg, step through, almost probably to a Turk position, I'm assuming. And Montanona just floats his hips on top, the weirdest position ever, like something you would never really expect someone to do other than him. And he reverses Root, almost puts Root to his back off of it. Like, I'm just saying, obviously, Root's a stud. He knows how to wrestle. My game plan would have been to just keep it neutral. Just keep it neutral with Montanona. I wouldn't have messed around on top and bottom at all. And I would have tried to win this takedown battle.
Two legs.
Yeah. Mantanona, I think after that takedown, kind of played possum for a second because he was just on his back or on his stomach.
Yeah, he was like on his side.
And all of a sudden just exploded. And I was like, whoa.
Nuts. Like weird position.
Did you guys notice the seeds at this weight? How it all ended up?
One, two, three, four.
They literally went almost chalk. They just switched 2 and 4. And basically that was a 3-4 match.
Yeah.
1 through 8 seeds all placed.
Oh,
Hey, shout out to our boy 8 seed Christian Herrera, Bakersfield.
yeah.
Senior. Carlos Herrera's little brother.
Rounded 12 the last 2 years.
Round of 12 the last 2
one.
years.
Wow.
Carlos, you know, I know Carlos real well. A lot of us know him real well, and we know Christian well because we've just known Carlos for so long. Kid's a freaking hammer, works his butt off. He's been grinding for BHS, wrestling for Adam Fierro and AJ Fierro and all those guys, and it was just so awesome to see him get on the podium. And he's uncommitted, and I think he could be a super good 49, 57 pounder in college. Hopefully he lands somewhere. And yeah, shout out that kid. Proud of him.
That's cool. Cool shout out.
57s.
Let's go.
Yep.
Another chalk weight. All 8 guys, all 8 seeded guys were top 8.
I didn't know
Barbosa had a phenomenal run, but you know, you just get into that situation of, hey, do we cut him? Do we ride? Do we not? Grigor level change, like our 2 different styles there, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see the Greason match. Wasn't he had Greason in the semis, right?
Oh man, Brian, you called Brian Batista. You called Greason. I was like, cool. I get the kid that Brian was all about. Like, let's see what he's about. Listen, Grigor had an amazing tournament, state champ. He finally did it. Greason to me was probably the best guy at that weight. The dude's explosive. He loves offense. He was going. He's a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
He's young and he's good. Like, this is his weight next year, unless he goes up. But whatever weight he wrestles at, to me, he's the contender for a state champ next year. And I mean, he ended up taking 6th, but
Defaulted out.
I think it was hard for him to recover. I mean, we were in that tunnel because it was right after 150 semis. So we were there, and then he came in, you know, a little emotional.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I'm not sure if it was an injury or what, but I think when I think he needs to mature a little bit, dude. And I think he's good right now. I think you give him spring and summer to develop even more. And I don't think he's just one of the best guys in the state. I think he could potentially be one of the best guys in the country.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, to me, Chalakian did what he needed to do, but I felt like he was wrestling to not lose the entire tournament. To me, that backflip he did at the end when he celebrated was the most action I've seen from him the entire time. And I don't mean to be insulting, but honestly, like his match in the finals was like he was just trying not to lose the whole time, and I think he
Yeah.
just put
He
to me, it seemed-
succeeded. He succeeded. He didn't
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of pressure on him, and I think he put a lot of pressure on himself. That's what I kept thinking. He kept not winning a state title over and over. That he had a lot of pressure, and so nothing against him, but oh yeah, he threw his coach too. So I would say that was a ton of action too. But
Is
congrats,
that
but
is throwing the coach, is that still in or is that out?
oh, that's in. What do you mean? That's so cool. I love him. I love when people do that.
I just
Mm.
feel like it's been done a lot. You know,
Our athlete doesn't know how to throw, so he didn't throw it.
oh, were you pushing him like throw me, throw me, throw me? And
He's
he's
like, wait, which way do
No,
I
I-
go?
yeah, I don't know
Which
how
way
to
do
do
I?
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there. I'm just hating. Would I mind getting thrown? Absolutely not. I think it's in. I think
It's in. It's in.
Cool. It's cool.
Oh, real
Oh,
quick, while we're talking about it, did you guys see New Jersey State Finals heavyweight female?
Oh
win
yeah.
her state title, cartwheel, round off, backflip, full split through the air.
She
Just
didn't do a
back-
boom,
backflip.
hits
She did
it.
not
and-
She did
backflip.
No backflip, but she
Okay,
hit the
well,
split.
you know, round off, close enough, and then full splits, and the referees in the background are losing their mind. It was awesome.
I thought it was cool they didn't like call unsportsmanlike or anything like that. Like they
No,
just like
let 'em do
her
their thing.
celebrate.
Let 'em do
Let
their
her
thing.
celebrate. Now
You
she
know-
threw a headgear.
Different story.
I called that on the call, and I go back to our wrestler at Temecula. You know, I look at Calvin DeVault when he wins the state title, and he
Oh,
comes and he does his round off backflip, and it was done right beforehand. And then obviously we're seeing it at the higher level, not only at the world level at the Olympics, but when you get into Gable and him doing that, I don't ever have a problem with that. They're celebrating
Oh,
it.
yeah.
The throwing the headgear, I'm not down with. But
Backflips are always preferred and safe unless Metcalf is around. That's the only time you don't want to try.
you might get pushed out of
You
bounds for
might
that
get
one.
thrown around, but that's
Honestly,
about the only time.
I think Carr winning a national title and going for the backflip and Metcalf tackling
Oh
it. I
my
think
God.
that's number one of my all time
Oh my
celebrations.
God.
That was pretty cool.
That was rich. That was so rich.
I'm still a big fan of double taking off your ankle bands and shooting them out of midair.
No way,
Gotta
dude.
be-
You put the Metcalf Carr
Oh,
backflip
stop.
like here, and then I'd say the Bubba Jenkins shooting the ankle bands.
I don't know.
That's
Probably
close.
off camera.
It's close.
Maybe top
As
10.
long as we don't get to the Mongolian coaches celebration, which is a protest, but
Yeah.
So
as long as
let-
we don't transition to the
we
celebration.
were involved in a couple protests, once at Masters and then once at State with the same 106 pounders from Frontier and then from Clovis North. And I was actually telling Carlo the second time it happened because it was taking a while, and I talked to him after. And I'm totally cool with those guys, but I was like, dude, they should make a rule next year where if you want to protest, you have to protest like a Mongolian.
Yeah.
And if you lose, you don't get your clothes back.
You just
You
got
don't
it.
get your
And
clothes
you're
back.
ejected out of the tournament.
Oh no.
No, you have to keep coaching with your clothes off, I think.
No, you're out. You're out. Because,
You-
mandated reporter, the reminders in the building, you're out. You have to go.
Yep.
Yeah, true.
Lose the
If you want to
you're
protest, you
done.
got to take your clothes off. And if you lose, you're out.
It's trial by fire. You got to lose. You win. You win. You stay in. You lose. You're out.
All
Yeah.
right, let's move to 65 so these boys can not only feel great about themselves,
Here we go.
but also, a huge praise because Antonio and the way he wrestled at Doc B and the way that kind of ended up with Guffey out on top, and then to rematch him in the finals. What did you guys ultimately? What was your game plan? Because it obviously had changed from Doc B into State.
Brian or Brady?
Take it.
To be honest, yeah, I've been asked a couple times, was there a game plan with our neutral, trying to stay low, trying to keep distance? Not really. I'm a big proponent of our coaching staff wrestling our athletes in practice. And since Doc B, I've been left leg lead, Russian 2-on-1, high C only on Kong the entire back half of the season. And that was sole preparation for him to wrestle Antonio, really. Anytime I got on a high C, I was picking him up. Anytime I got on a sweep single, I was trying to run it into a double leg. I mean, realistically, I tried to give him the most accurate look of Antonio that I could. And when it came to the match, we didn't tell him, this is what you can and can't do. We said, you get your hands locked on a leg, you're going to finish. You get on top, you're going to turn him. And I think Brady even said it during the finals, you're going to turn him. And then about 10 seconds later, we turned him. It wasn't a huge, avoid his style. It was more stick to what you're good at. And that's getting in on legs and that's riding tough on top. And it worked out.
Well, Oren and I could see that from the corner. Obviously, you guys were on the near side, but taking a peek at you, you could see it. You could hear it. You could hear the confidence that Brady, that you were instilling in him. And I even said that on the call, and I think that's the best part about sitting Matt's side, being able to hear that kind of stuff. And, there was that calmness of, we got him. We're going to turn him. We're going to turn him. And I looked at Oren looked at me, and we both had that little bit of like a snicker. And it was like, boop. There it is.
Yeah, I same thing. We didn't really have much, we knew what he did and all that, but I think Colin is the best guy. Like I think it was just stick to our guns, and all year long, because long story, I was good on top. I pinned a lot of people. Colin's goal was to beat my pin record, and I'm like, great, let's do it. And then he is one of the toughest kids on top. He knows how to pin people. But me and him joke around. We're practicing like, oh, I'm a better pinner. You're a better pinner. You can turn guys, this and that. And but all season long, I'm like, hey, you can turn every guy in the state of California. There's no questions about it. Every single guy in the bracket. I don't care who they are. You can turn them. And I just instilled that through him. Like, you can do it. You can do it. And if you felt Colin on top, it is tough, man. He's super strong. He's got really good pressure. And when he gets your wrist, good luck. Like it's tough. And yeah, all tournament, I'm like, hey, you can turn this guy every time. You can go watch the quarters, the semis, everything. I'm like, you're going to turn him. You're going to turn him. Stick to the turn. Stick to the turn. Stick to the turn. Same thing. Not Barbosa.
Antonio?
Not Antonio.
Oh, Alonzo.
Alonzo.
No, Alonzo.
We had wrestled him. What? That was our third time. We'd never turned him. Never even got close. You can turn him. You can turn him. Sure enough, turns him. And I think once you really turn a guy, it just puts like it does something to your mental game where you're like, shoot, I'm done. Like it's tough to come back from. So that was nice. But obviously it just keeps him calm in the corner too. Like, hey, just trust your and don't just ride. Like, don't just sit there and hang on to a leg, or don't just, continue to work for a turn, and your ride will be good if you're continuously working for a turn. I think that's like kind of like David Taylor-esque, which I like a lot too.
I love
Did
it.
did he beat your pin record?
He did.
He smoked it.
You don't look too happy.
He smoked it.
No, he did. I didn't even know I had a record until a while ago, and then he found out about it, and his dad like loves records, so he's fed him all. And I'm like, he's like last year at state, I think he beat my record one. I don't know which one.
Your season record, your pin season,
single season record. Yeah, it was like 39 pins or something. But he like pointed at me like, I got you, like, and I just smiled at him and looked at his dad and like gave him a thumbs up, like.
That's the best part about being a coach.
And kids not him, but I had another kid a while back, like, coach, what if I win state? Does that make you feel bad? Like, cause I did better. And I'm like, I would not be coaching if I didn't want kids to achieve higher things than I did. Like, what kind of coach would I be if I'm like, oh, I want to coach you, but you can't place at state,
Yeah. Hey, take a loss on this one for me, please.
No, like, no. So, I mean, it's
and honestly, this is kind of like a fairy tale ending where it was like, top was his main thing, and it's like, cool, he's gonna win it with a turn. I think it's a cool and undefeated season, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 51-0.
That's crazy.
I think 39 pins.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was great. And a lot of people also asked, like, how nervous were you? Were you freaking out, this and that? Like, obviously there are nerves associated, especially when you have a kid like Antonio. I think in the match, they're ranked 5th and 6th in the country or something like that. Antonio's a stud. He is going to be a great college wrestler. He's got another year of high school still. And he's also super nice and respectful. So all hats off to that kid. He's going to be great. Mm-hmm. But Colin is one of those kids who is so calm and so just so locked in. I mean, and not just at the state tournament. I mean, I'm talking all season, especially at the state tournament, though. I mean, he's walking around before the finals match, and I'm probably more nervous than he is. And I talk to him, and I'm like, what are we thinking? Like this is probably earlier in the day. And he's like, whatever's meant to be is going to be. And that's just what's going to happen. All I have to do is do what I got to do and wrestle, and whatever's meant to be will be. And that's, I think, the kind of calmness that just brings me back down as a coach, because I'm up here and he brings me back down and helps me just like, all right, we're going to do what we do and we're going to go out there and wrestle. And it all worked out. And I think, yeah, it was the hands down best moment of Brady and I's coaching career. We cried like little girls, maybe me more than he did, but it was fun, and it was awesome to send him out that way. And he's going to do big things for Stanford. He's going to be a hammer.
And a great picture to boot. We always talk about Brian's picture last year, and then now your picture. Just the elation on your face. I forget who your guys' photographer is, but I look back to the other when you guys are pounding on the dashboard board.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And then you see just him jump into your arms, and it's pretty freaking cool to see that from the other side of it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was a memory I'll never forget. And yeah, I mean, that kid worked his tail off. I mean, Brady and I have been wrestling him since middle school, and that kid works. There's some chatter on the forums. Oh, had Guffey been at Poway, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. The kid started at Poway. I'll give him that. And they did a great job getting him, good skills and whatnot through his youth years. He doesn't live in Poway. Okay. He lives in Granite Hills borders. Guess where he decided to wrestle? Granite Hills. Guess where he decided to freaking
He
stage
also did not start at Poway for that reference, everybody. He started at Valhalla, which is right next to our school. And then he went to Poway, and then he came back to where he's from.
Exactly.
Well, he never moved.
You don't have to justify it, dude. He's
But,
at your
no,
school.
I mean,
he was there
no,
forever.
yeah.
And
Check
he's
your
your
ego,
state
guys.
champ. Check our ego. Yeah.
Taking that away, what Sean said, Antonio, that kid is awesome. And
Beast.
Guffey and him they were talking all year long. They had nothing but respect for each other. They were talking before the finals match, and like, he's a good kid. I talked to him after, probably about 15 minutes after the finals. He was kind of hanging out, and I went and talked to him. I'm like, hey man, you're a tough wrestler. Like, you made our lives a little tougher, when you got to wrestle the 5 and 6 in the country to win a state finals match. That's tough. I don't think there was that many finals matches that had 2 top 10 nationally ranked guys, maybe 4 or 5 of them out of the 14.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Yeah. I think 3 or 4, but
50s, 38s,
heavyweights,
and
heavy.
50, 38, heavyweight, and 65.
Yeah.
So I talked, and I'm like, man, you're gonna win state next year. And he looked straight in my face and he said, I don't care about winning state. He said, I want to be the best wrestler I can be. Like, state does not matter to me. I'm like, dude, this kid's gonna be good, man. I mean, he already is good, obviously, but Army's gonna get a good one, man. They
Big time.
They're getting a good recruit in that kid. He's a
Big
good
time.
kid.
Let's talk about the juice at 65 before we move on. Anyone who looks at the bracket's going to see that there is no 3 seed. The 3 seed, Adrian Reyes from Clovis, returning state placer, 2-time state placer, and currently a junior. Was apparently, from what I heard, I don't have any factual source or anything
Allegedly,
like
as
that,
Brian would say.
but
I think it's confirmed. I think it
Yeah.
was definitely confirmed. It was confirmed on that Thursday. Well, really the Wednesday before. So, yeah.
When
This
did you
is-
know?
this is one of those.
When did you know?
Me?
You said Wednesday you figured that out?
what did we
Well-
know? We haven't even said what we know yet.
No, I heard obviously on Thursday when he wasn't there. And the scuttlebutt was going on. Obviously, I get there a little bit later on Thursday. I was starting all the streams, but as soon as I heard Gabe Schaefer was right there, and I flat out asked, and I was like, "Hey, dude, true?" And he's like, "Yep, Wednesday, but is what it is." And I was like, "All right, that's all I heard." So,
I mean, it's unfortunate. I think it's something that honestly, like, I use as a reminder to the kids. It's like, I know there are going to be kids on your team that do stuff outside the room that they shouldn't, right? And I think it's something that it's one of those things where it's unfortunate for him, for the kid. That it's got to be something that for me as a coach, I got to relate to the team. It's like, listen, like everything you do affects not just yourself but the team. And we're not even in a position really to be talking about top 5 in the state, honestly. But for Clovis, it's like that could have endangered their spot. And that looks bad as a program, and that looks bad, for what you're trying to instill with values in these kids. And it's like you got to tell your wrestlers, you see that? Like, be smarter, be better. If you're going to do stuff, no one should know about it ever. Don't do it on campus. Like, don't do it. And I think again, it's like you got to check in. It's like, yeah,
so supposedly he was caught smoking a vape on campus at Clovis High School, which obviously sent him into a suspension protocol, which forfeited basically whatever competition was next, which was state. There was a lot of rumors going around Thursday morning because obviously this hadn't have hit until Thursday when he wasn't at weigh-ins. I don't know if anyone had made mentions of it prior to that, but there was rumors that it was happening at the state tournament or before the state tournament, but it sounds like it actually happened at school prior to the state tournament, and it just was a trickle-down effect from their admin and the suspension and all that stuff that came with it.
And we've talked throughout this whole podcast, things can't define somebody. Hopefully it won't define him and he learns from his mistakes. And they're kids, man. They're kids. Kids make mistakes and take the wrestling out of it. Yeah, his life is been impacted. When you got just a bunch of 5 crazy dudes on a podcast talking about some high school kid, in his future, he made a mistake and just learn from it and move on and just do the best possible thing that you can do to advocate for not doing that and be a better teammate. And, I think, Brian, you said it too, where you it's a talking point with your kids, talk with your kids and say, hey, listen, number 1, don't do this crap. And if number 2, you need help or you don't need help, like, don't do it on campus. Like, don't jeopardize your school, his education, let alone the wrestling side of it.
I think he's going to bounce back. I think we all know the kid is a phenomenal wrestler and he's nationally ranked. He's beaten not nationally ranked people. He's a 2-time state medalist. Probably was the only guy who maybe could have kept it close with Antonio leading up to the finals. But I think it's one of those things where he's got to just, slap, it is, it's in the past. You can't do anything about it. Move forward, work extra hard, and make up for it next year. And that could very well be our state finals next year, Reyes and Antonio.
All right, 175.
Hey, before we hit 75s, okay, I've got to be up in 6 hours for work. So I'm going to bounce, but I love you guys. I appreciate it. I want to do this more often. And I will see you guys all here pretty soon.
You had to wait till 65s.
Yeah, no wait.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right.
And then there were 4.
Listen, I was about to say the same thing. I wish I did. Damn.
We should have all said it at the same time.
That would have been good. Okay, I mean 75. There's one name that sticks out, obviously.
I think he had the most impressive run of anybody all season, and take nothing away from Guffey whatsoever. But Posada was so dominant, and the weight's deep. I mean, Ontiveros. I mean, you look at John. Those are some tough competitors, and he dominated. I mean, I know the finals was 5-1, but if you look at that, that little slick takedown that he did on that cut back ankle was so impressive. Like, that is high level stuff. Another shout out to Oren on the call there for the top 5 takedowns of the tournament. But
so it was so clean. I mean,
so clean.
Yeah, the guy's impressive. I love the way he wrestles, and not take away anything from Ontiveros. I mean, he's a sophomore at 175 pounds, and I mean, in his semifinal, he dominated 10-5. That kid's good, and so I was like, man, he might push it against Posada, but Posada did what he did all season, and he dominated. I was impressed, very impressed, and he's a junior.
I
You know,
got
and
I
it's-
got something to say.
Uh-oh.
I don't think 75 was that deep. I think there's some good wrestlers in there. But if you look at Branson John, where do you think he would have finished at 165s?
You tell me.
I don't think he would have been in the top 3 or 4. And he took
Okay, but are you assuming that if Posada goes down to 65s that he's not going to place in the top 3?
No, I'm just saying at the overall 175, I don't think was the toughest weight class.
I
don't
think
know.
it's.
Jake
I'm not
Honey
saying
and
I'm not
Buck?
saying I am not saying 165s was. I would just saying you guys were saying 175 is loaded. I don't agree with that. Really.
I think top 5 is pretty solid. You have Posada, Ontiveros, John, Buck, and Honey.
I think they're great wrestlers.
good.
I think this was one of very open weight classes from what I saw. I think there was a lot of guys that could have got on there. And
Well,
So are you
well, I
thinking
mean, I would.
that outside of
ahead.
Posada, everybody below Posada is a step below?
absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, this is
Okay.
good. Posada's gonna listen to this. He's gonna eat this up. He's gonna
No,
take.
I'm saying Posada is nasty. He's
No, for sure,
so much
for
better
sure.
than everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was on his level at this.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And
I don't think-
Ontiveros is great. He's only a sophomore. That kid's going to be really good. I'm interested to see how much bigger he gets next year. If he'll stay there, if he'll kind of get to like 190s, or even Posada. He's tall. I don't know.
Posada's tall.
He's very,
But
very
if you look the whole it's a weak weight. I'm not. Are you saying just in contrast to Posada? Or are you saying the weight itself is weak?
I'm not trying to take anything away from the placers. I'm not trying to say they're weak. I think it was pretty open. Like any of these guys could have been 2 through 8. And
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
So
It-
you're just saying Posada is the cream of the crop there, and everybody
Really good.
below
Yeah,
them they're
there
really
was never
tough
a doubt in my
wrestlers.
mind. There was never a doubt in my mind that he was going to win that weight for sure. Like, I think even since the beginning of the season, he's tough.
You know, I agree with you on that statement, because if I'm looking at any of those weight classes, and whether you're doing a fantasy draft, obviously we're not doing a fantasy draft for high school, but if you're looking at one guy who is the clear cut number 1 at a weight class, I would think Posada was there for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, if you look at every other weight, like 106, you're like, okay, this is toss up. 13s toss up. 20s, I probably would have. I'm sticking with what's his name, but other than that, I think the other weights were like, man, these 3 or 4 guys could win it. 75s, I'm like, no, he's winning that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you're looking
Yeah.
at all 14 weight classes. You're gonna have a number 1 pick, a guy that you can bet on that's most likely gonna win their weight class.
I would have picked Posada
for sure.
number 1.
For sure.
Yeah,
Oh.
which leads us into 190s, same situation. Like outside Sonny.
Yeah.
I mean, Borelli was an athlete for sure, but I think I think Sonny Kling's toughest matchup was Sandoval, and he manhandled him. I mean, he beat him 7-2, 7-3,
7-3.
something like that. It was it 7-3?
7-3, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, just I didn't mean to jump out of moving into 90s, but like same situation. Like Sonny was the guy, three-time finalist. Finally gets his championship.
No, I mean, Posada really impressed me, but Kling from last year, I was like, whoa, this dude is Posada last year in the finals, he got pinned, right? Was it him?
He got beat. I don't know if he got pinned, but he lost.
Okay, it might have been Luke Condon from Poway who got pinned. But Kling, to me, I was so impressed with him last year, and then this year, I knew coming in, I was like, this is a guy I'm looking forward to watch wrestle. The guy's so talented. I mean, dominant. What's he ranked in the country? He's got to be top.
I don't think he's super, super high. I think he's
Just crazy to me. I'm very impressed. What's he committed to?
teens. I think he's committed to CBU. I'm excited to watch him in college. He's going to be really good.
He's going to be really good. I'm very impressed with the way that kid wrestles.
That guy walks around and I'm like, dude, I don't know what he's thinking. Like, he just looks
zero emotion.
I
Zero.
know. I look at him. I'm like, dude, I don't know what he's thinking right now. He's just walking, doesn't smile, doesn't make a mad face. He's just like Eeyore almost. I don't even know what to think.
I said it on the broadcast. It's very rare. He's a Southern Section boy, and he was always, as a young kid, he was traveling around to all the clubs. He did a little bit of work with Team Temecula, and he travels everywhere. But to end up there at the desert, Palm Desert, and then eventually with Jason, Jason Lowe's a heck of a coach. And for him to actually talk to me and say that he never has any emotion, he's just all business, but a relaxed business. And I said it on the call. I was like, are we going to get some emotion? Are we going to get some emotion? And he just went,
Yeah,
it was like, finally, dude, the monkey's off his back. It's his third time, and he gets his title. I thought Sonny wrestled really well. His match against Sandoval in the semis was impressive, and beat him up pretty good and Sandoval's no slouch.
Ranked 11th in the country.
11th, yeah.
I mean, the top two at that weight, Aiden Sinclair and Connor Mirasola, are top dogs, but I'm like, and he could be better than 11th in my book, but we shall see on the next level. Yeah, this is Kling's weight class by far, and I think Borelli looked great in the semis, beating Costa, but I didn't think anyone was touching Kling, and no one did. Major decision. I think that was the most dominant performance in the finals that we saw. I think that was the only major that we saw.
And that throw, if he's in bounds a little bit, he's getting stuck.
Yeah.
A beautiful throw to his back. And, again, another one of those flow highlights that everybody across the country got to see.
215.
This is a tough one for me.
Yeah. Why is it tough, Brian?
It's a tough one for me because I absolutely loved Platt last year. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought his wrestling against Merrill, and then going to see the increase in weight at Doc B, and the way that Merrill just lifted Platt straight into this freaking stratosphere. The reason why it's tough for me is really looking at the 3-4. I look at a Murillo, and he took third 3 years in a row. Like 3 years in a row, he took third, and his match against Platt was like, that's that one as a fan, not as a broadcaster, nothing as a fan. You're like, okay, can Murillo get over the hump? He's got the returning state champ. Like, is that going to happen? And then next thing you know, he doesn't. So, and then you get into the finals, and you could tell, again, take nothing away from Platt. You can go on to any YouTube channel from Flow, and everybody's talking about Oren and I praising Merrill. Well, Merrill was the top dog, and he obviously was injured. It looks like somebody had mentioned something about his meniscus in both knees. One knee in the semis,
he had ice
and
on
one
both
knee
of his knees, I think,
Yeah.
right
Afterwards, yeah.
sitting down.
Yeah. So I think possible meniscus issues. He got the left knee or the right knee, one of the ever, in the semis.
Yeah, he was taking injury time in the semis for sure.
And that was against Whitworth. And then as soon as that was done, you could see him gimping. But Platt wrestled such a smart match, stayed square. And with a big guy like that with Merrill, big shout out to Platt for physically handling a very physical human being in Merrill.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, you can tell, and taking nothing away from Platt, I think Platt deserved both of his state titles, but you could see there was one point in the match where he had a chance kind of on the edge of the mat to be offensive, and he pulled back 100%. He didn't even go for it. And it's like, okay, the dude's wrestling at a handicapped level at some point. He's able to hold his own, but he can't do anything offensively, didn't look like. And I thought that was a bit of a shame. I just would have liked to see a real match between the two, because I think it would have forced Platt to be a little more defensive. If Merrill's getting in on shots and he's got to defend him, I'd love to see how that would go. But credit to Platt, but man, Merrill did not look like himself for sure.
I really love the way Platt opened up in the quarters. He was wrestling Dansby, and just his motion, and he's a tall guy. He's really tall, really thick, at 215 pounds, he's not short. And he opened it up on Dansby. He beat him like 10-5 on the offensive side. But yeah, Two-timer, baby. Not many. He gets his name in the program forever as a two-time state champ. It'll be there for life.
For two different
awesome.
schools.
Yeah, which is crazy too.
All right, heavyweight.
Hey, boys.
Is this what, Brian? Is this your favorite weight?
I mean, as a fat guy, nowadays, it's not my favorite. 150s was my favorite for sure. Shout out to Go Blue, but the 50s was just loaded. That was the favorite one to watch. But we had talked about it numerous times. There was the top two and a massive drop off. And whether it's Harrington, whether it's Farha, whether it was Stanley, there's a distinct difference between Sahakian and Merrill, and those guys are the cream of the crop, the heavyweight division. And I think both of those guys are going to transpire. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but moving on to the college level, very well, both of those guys.
I agree. Do you think that Merrill goes 97s in college?
I don't know. I think no. I think here's his experiment. Obviously, we don't know.
Some stuff on today, and everyone's like, "Yeah, he's definitely going 97s." I'm like,
Then why'd they have him go up to heavy? It has nothing to do with his brother.
I don't know, because I guess Oklahoma State has Christian Carroll, who's like a pretty high recruit, and he's coming off redshirt next year. And
Well,
Merrill's.
I think Merrill weighed in at what 265, something like that.
So he didn't move for his brother. I saw someone had posted that, and I was like, oh, I guess I didn't know what the story was, but
I don't know. I'm out of the loop on that, but I don't think he would move up a weight class to let his brother move up.
Yeah.
But nah, he's the real deal, dude. If they can stop his nose from bleeding all the time, that guy just pushes the pace whatsoever. Like every match stays square. And to beat Sahakian multiple times in a season, again, another close match. But yeah, Merrill's the guy.
yeah.
Undefeated high school career.
Yeah, what? Out of California, that's crazy. And gosh, I wish Daniel Herrera, is that who it was?
Yeah.
Iowa. Man, I wish he had stayed, because this weight would have been bonkers with those three in it. Absolutely bonkers.
It's interesting looking at a lot of these seniors that are just all through the weight classes. I mean, all these guys had pretty much their freshman year was COVID. Now, this is maybe more like my perspective, and I think it's maybe shared by a lot of people, is these freshmen have this opportunity to learn virtually for the most part. And at the same time, also had opportunities, I think, to get a lot of workouts in that maybe they wouldn't normally have had, and go to tournaments that they maybe wouldn't normally have because they were learning virtually. What do you guys think about that theory? Because I think this senior class is, I don't know, maybe one of the better senior classes that we've had in California history.
I see what you're saying, but that's so long ago. I think maybe it helped them out that year. Yeah, there was some tournaments and opportunities they got, but I don't know if that helped them out their entire career, you think?
I mean, that freshman year, I think, is so tough for a lot of kids, especially if you were maybe a good wrestler before high school, and then you make that when you go from youth wrestler to high school wrestler, that jump is same thing between high school and college. That jump can sometimes be pretty tough. And I think in that transition, if you're getting opportunities to, travel to Utah for a tournament, or travel to, Arizona, or travel to Bakersfield, we had a couple COVID tournaments, I think I was, part of that group that had the first tournament back in California. These opportunities to go and train with different clubs and be a little bit unorthodox with how you're training might have been in some way contributing to their development. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that's just how I feel. And, from some of the guys that I've seen, even just in Bakersfield, I think they made a pretty big jump that COVID year.
I think a lot of it is the progression into three styles. There are plenty of schools that just don't, it's folk style and that's it. But look at these elite teams. outside of maybe Clovis, they don't do anything. Buchanan different, but that wrestling those three styles, going to Fargo, making all those trips. But that really started, like you said, Brian, with COVID, where these people had to leave, necessarily a county or a city that was more shut down than others. And it was like, hey, let's get our boys together and let's travel. I know that they did a lot of that stuff out in Bullhead City, those tournaments that were running forever. But yeah, it definitely plays a part on this class. But this 2024 is a loaded class. I'm pulling it up right now.
Cal Grappler had a really
Yep.
good post where it
That's
showed.
That's what I'm pulling up right now. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 three-time state placers. And just, I mean, as you look down that list, you see like Murillo, third. But you look at like Montanona, he was a three-time finalist. You look at other guys that are, Estrada was a two-time finalist, in a fourth place. But all these guys, you look at Laird Root taking third, second. You're right. It might be the toughest class coming out of California in a long time.
A lot of Division I commits too.
Yeah.
Lots.
I think as we progress, I think California is getting, and I think we've had a lot of success on the Division I stage, but I feel like as we progress, hopefully it's getting more and more. We've had like the superstars, like the Jason Welches, and I just throw his name out there because I love him, but you have like those big stars, and I didn't feel like we had a ton of like huge, super dominant stars. There wasn't anyone to me that like fully stood out as like a Jason Welch, a guy that you're just he's gonna whoop everyone he wrestles. There's a lot more competition. And you just look at the seeds, I don't know how 10 or 12 of the weights were the semis were 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. The finals were 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3. I think the seating was incredible. But I think there wasn't as much like parity. It was a lot of tough guys, and I didn't see a ton who like stood out above the crowd. But I think that's because everyone was so tough. Like Mantanona is one of those guys, but he couldn't even be dominant at all. He won by 1 point in the finals and in the semis.
It's getting harder and harder to not just win a state title, but even just get on the podium. Now, how I feel, I think if we want to be able to catch Pennsylvania as a state, I think there's a couple things that need to happen.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't do it.
You
I
keep
think
that thought in your
for
head.
one,
Don't do
for
it.
one, I think you need more guys going off to college and then coming back.
100%
I think that's
there.
important. We got to make sure we retain wrestlers all the way through and they come back and coach, come back and help fundraise, come help, start a business, employ people, like stay around the sport. I think that's super important because you look at Pennsylvania, all these kids, they don't just go off and wrestle Division I, they go off and wrestle Division III, they go wrestle NAI, they go wrestle Division II. Pennsylvania, I think, has the most college wrestling programs out of any state. And it's all pretty, I think geographically a smaller state. So being able to have that's important. I'm not going to say the point that you don't want me to say, even though it was asked on Facebook that we talk about it. Well, maybe we say that for next episode. But that is one of my points.
Next episode.
That is a major point.
Well,
Because
I think
then you get more kids, I think, going to college and coming
Let's
back.
get that next episode because that's going to be a barn burner of a talk. And
You guys don't want to talk for another hour?
No, that leads to to kind of, I guess, if we're wrapping it up, but Poway is so deep and they have so many coaches that have come back to be able to do that. And you also see that up at Buchanan and Clovis North and Clovis East, with all those schools. The breakdown is very interesting. If you're looking at pure medals across the way, this year was actually tied. There was 33 medalists from Central, 33 medalists from, Southern. And then the next biggest was San Joaquin with 18, and then San Diego 14, and Central Coast 10. Outside of that, there were 2s, 1 and 1. North Coast got 2, Northern got 1, and LA got 1 with Aslekian. But you talk about the parity, it is, and it's like 4 really sections. and that iron sharpens iron, and people are just wrestling each other all over this state. And you see 5 big tournaments across the state that now everybody's going to. Obviously, Doc B being the cream of the crop with a true invitational, but in no particular order after that. You know, you look at Zinkin, you look at Battle for the Belt, you look at 5 counties. Mid-Cals has kind of dropped off a little bit, in my opinion, kind of like CIT.
CIT, yeah.
Yeah. But you look at those 5 tournaments, you look at Zinkin, you know, you look at Doc B, you look at Battle, and you look at 5 counties, and those are some tough tournaments, not to mention Central Section Masters, Southern Section Masters. These kids are just getting elite wrestling, and they're beating each other up. And I don't know. I love it. I think our sport is growing, and we didn't even get to talk about a lot of the girls' growth because they're growing it too.
Huge. Absolutely huge.
Oren, final words.
Final words.
Not for the podcast, just for this episode.
Yeah, no, I just think honestly, I know I was only there for a day, but I normally harp on these guys, but I was so impressed with the officiating. To me, it really reminded me of the NCAA tournament, where the refs, for the most part, take a step back. They're not really part of it. Listen, there's controversial matches. They're going to happen. There's going to be some controversial calls, but overall, man, I felt like they honestly made some really good calls. They kept it fair. They let the wrestlers wrestle, and boy, did those wrestlers wrestle. Congrats to Poway. They crushed it. Record 10 in the semis, 7 in the finals, 3 champs. Unbelievable. Hats off to them. I think everyone wrestled tough. Michael Cho, you crushed it with the seedings and the rankings. Almost every weight was following the seedings pretty strictly. It was pretty crazy to see. I don't think I've ever seen any tournament like that, and for it to be the state tournament is pretty wild, even at heavyweights. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. Cheers. It was fun.
Brady?
I think Oren took it. He said it all. The only thing I'll add is that California is the best state tournament in the country. I'll go down with that. I will say with confidence, there is no better state tournament than California.
Brian?
Mic drop.
How do I follow that? Yeah, 1,000 schools. You know, the tournament ran really smooth, and that's not a pat on the back for K&D, and that's not what I'm saying. But like, from the mat setup to the officiating to the timely manner, you know, I look at the Quintero thing, you know, and him, you know, glad he's okay, but the tournament didn't miss a beat, and the referees did a great job. But the one word that I get out of this tournament is, and really California wrestling, is depth. Poway is so deep. You know, you look at Navita, well, the other Navita and Jones, you know, and them battling all year long, and then Jones gets in. But to have 12 place winners from Poway, to have 12 place winners from Buchanan, the depth of teams now, what it takes to win a state title. Very impressed with the coaching, very impressed with the way the tournament ran, and I'm just happy that I get called back every year to kind of help produce it on the stream side and with Candy, and get to hang out with the O-Dog and call some matches. But phenomenal tournament.
I can't wait until we split it up in divisions. So with that, let's end the podcast. Good job, guys. And make sure you guys watch and like and subscribe and leave a comment on what you guys think.
Man, that was as long as the finals was.